Hi people, a very good evening to everyone. I hope I'm audible now. And I am extremely sorry for the delay because actually we got the new setup done at a new place. So this is the first time I am using this screen, as in this is some other screen. So it was taking some time to download the software and everything. So yeah, I am extremely sorry for the delay. So yeah, a very good evening to all of you. And I think this is our first official interaction because we might have met in current affair classes or the essay classes if you have already got the access to them. And but officially foundation batch if I talk about, so this is going to be our first interaction. So a very good evening to everyone out there and a very happy new year, although it is a slightly delayed wish, but yeah, this is the first time we are meeting. So a very happy new year to everyone out there, and I sincerely wish that this new year brings a lot of happiness and success in your life. Okay? So on this note, we would be starting. Okay. So basically, my name is Smriti Shah, and now we are going to have a long association. This is the first formal class, and now we are going to have quite a long association. Indian society, social justice, post-independence, and few portion of ethics. So yeah, we are going to meet each other quite often. And I think that would enough time would be given to both of us, as in you guys also and to me also, to get comfortable with each other. So today's session is more about breaking the ice to make you more comfortable with the subject, that is Indian society. And tomorrow I'm going to have an open session with respect to the questions of this year 2021 mains. So in that I will have an elaborate discussion. So that portion I will not take today because anyway tomorrow hey coaches, so you can refer there. And if you will we'll sit through the classes, you will get to know that what is my teaching pedagogy and how we are going to proceed with it. But just for the information, see, the point here is that Indian society there is a small difficulty, very small. And the smallest difficulty is we do not have a standard book. That's all. Otherwise, the section is quite easy. Trust me, it is very interesting. And it is something which is very relevant also, because as and when we will be proceeding with the classes, you will get to see that there are a lot of things that you are experiencing in your everyday life, at your home, at your workplace, outside also. So with a slight accuracy in your observation skills, more curiosity and inquisitiveness, you will start enjoying this portion. Okay? Now, क्या हम करेंगे? Let me tell you this. Okay. Sometimes it might happen that I use one or two odd sentences in Hindi, but that would not be related to the content. So in case there is something you want me to repeat, please let me know. Okay? One thing. Second thing is that you might find my speed slightly on the higher note, and that's because that's into my nature. Okay, it's very difficult for me to speak slowly, and that is one thing my mom has been criticizing me like since my birth also. So the point here is I have this tendency of talking very fast. Okay, but that does not mean that we are going to compromise with the content. So content would be repeated every now and then, but slightly you also pick up the pace when my speed comes. Okay, क्योंकि वो आदत है, it takes time to go. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is what we are going to do is that we will today discuss that how we are going to proceed. One. Second thing is you have to put in a lot of effort. You have to put in a lot of effort with respect to answer writing. Nothing else is required from your side. All you need to do is whatever is being discussed in the class, stay focused to that. One. Secondly, whatever home assignments which I give, please be sincere in attempting those home assignments. Third thing is have discussions in the class. ठीक है? But try to make those discussions slightly relevant. ठीक, बहुत ज्यादा इफ बट मत पूछना क्योंकि वो मैं ऑलरेडी आंसर कर दूंगी. फिर भी कोई डाउट रहेगा तो व्हाट वी कैन डू इज दैट आफ्टर एवरी क्लास वील अरेंज 10-15 मिनट्स का डाउट क्लियरिंग सेशन, जिसमें कभी कभी क्या होता है ना, क्लास में वी स्लाइटली फील दैट द क्लास इज गेटिंग डिरेल्ड और थोड़ी शाइनेस है दैट वी आर नॉट एबल टू आस्क द क्वेश्चंस और यू हैव सम अदर डाउट्स विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू एनी अदर फैक्टर. So after every class, we'll have a 10-15 minutes doubt clearing session. So in that also you can ask any of your doubts. ठीक है? तो अब हम क्या करेंगे? Let's quickly start. And just one thing, since we do not have a standard book, we don't have a Lakshmikant or a Ramesh Singh or a Nitin Singhania or Bipin Chandra for Indian society. So उसके लिए हम क्या करेंगे? Class notes, one. Second thing, your current affairs, social issue, more than enough. And after I'm done with my Indian society lectures, After that, you need to read two NCERTs of class 12th. One is Indian Society and other one is Social Change and Development. That's it. Nothing else is required to be studied. But yes, what is required to be done is answer writing practice. Because society may, if you've seen the questions, we'll just discuss the questions, you will realize that questions are not difficult. Actually, they are not at all difficult. The only problem is, since we have not practiced, so writing a 10 marker or a 15 marker becomes a challenge. That's one thing. Second thing is, since questions are simple, it is related to everyday life, so everybody can answer. Now question comes, who is writing a better answer? So in society, what matters is relativity. So that is the thing we need to work upon. ठीक है, तो उस पे हम काम करेंगे. आप भी मेहनत करोगे, I will be working with you. So both of us are going to work hard and we will sail through. Trust me, if your society is strong, essay would not be a challenge. इस साल का essay बहुत तोड़ था. मतलब you must have seen, everybody is talking about, even other news channels are also talking about UPSC essay paper this time, all 8 topics philosophical. बट फिर भी अगर सोसाइटी पढ़ी है, एथिक्स ठीक से पढ़ा है, तो एटलीस्ट one टॉपिक फ्रॉम ईच ऑफ द सेक्शन वन कैन आंसर. सो बी वेरी सिंसियर व्हेन यू आर स्टडिंग सोसाइटी, बिकॉज सोसाइटी इज गोइंग टू फ्रेम योर बेस फॉर एथिक्स एंड सोसाइटी इज गिविंग यू इनफ कंटेंट फॉर्डर टू राइट अ गुड एसे. ठीक है, सो वी विल बी सिंसियर इन आवर एफर्ट. ज्यादा लंबी क्लास आई डोंट टेक. आई एम नॉट इंटरेस्टेड इन rigorously asking you to work hard for like 3 hours or 3.5 hours. That's not my working style. We will be taking classes of 2.5 hours without break. And yeah, that's a disclaimer, because I know very soon the students are going to write, ma'am please break दे दीजिए. तो इसलिए बता रही हूँ 2.5 hours का lecture होगा, ज्यादा लंबा नहीं होगा, break नहीं होगा. ठीक है, बहुत कुछ urgent होगा तो ले लेंगे, otherwise नहीं होगा. ठीक है ना? So this is how we are going to proceed. So let's quickly have a look. So the first question that arises, I knew this is going to happen. Why is it not working? Okay. So this is how the first session or the first part of the session we are going to proceed with, and that is why we are studying Indian society, what is supposed to be studied in Indian society, and how are we supposed to study. So first 1 hour we are going to deal with this. Reason being, many a times I think I have learned this from my experience of not clearing this exam, that there were 2-3 things which I was not very sincere about. One, I have never ever seen the syllabus. I was too much dependent on the coaching institutes, and during my time maybe that was not considered to be important, or maybe teachers assumed that इतना तो हम में सेंस होगा कि हम सिलेबस देखेंगे, बट मुझ में नहीं था. सो बेसिकली आई नेवर बॉदर्ड टू सी द सिलेबस. आई नो मेनी ऑफ यू मस्ट बी वंडरिंग कि मैम क्या तैयारी करी आपने, बट क्या करें भाई, हो गई गलती. सो आई हैव नेवर सीन द सिलेबस. दैट वाज माय फर्स्ट बिगेस्ट मिस्टेक आई कमिटेड. Second thing, I never bothered about the previous year questions, because I was of the type that let me first finish the syllabus. Let me first finish my course and then I'm going to look at the previous year questions, because that is how I have studied in graduation. But that didn't work for me here, because in UPSC, the syllabus is too vast to be covered. Right? It never comes to an end. And there is no clear-cut, threshold. Okay, this is what the syllabus is. जैसे graduation में होता है. यहाँ तो कुछ end ही नहीं था, कभी syllabus खत्म हुआ नहीं. And I never got the opportunity to solve previous year questions. So basically, I was studying, and I was studying a lot, but I was not studying in the right direction. So that was my problem. And third thing, I never did answer writing practice, because during my time, एक तो vision जैसा institute नहीं था, इसलिए नहीं कि vision, इसलिए क्योंकि आंसर राइटिंग का जो एक कॉन्सेप्ट था ना, इसको पॉपुलराइज विजन ने किया था. आई एम बीइंग वेरी ऑब्जेक्टिव हियर. सो द पॉइंट हियर, मैंने ये तीनों चीजें नहीं करी. सो मेरा नहीं क्लियर करना was quite obvious. So just by studying 12-14 hours for like years, if you think that you can clear this exam, तो ऐसे नहीं work होता है. In fact, on the contrary, I have seen people who are just studying 6 to 7 hours very diligently, very persistently, but very strategically, and they have cleared the exam in the very first attempt. So all those students out there who are not very confident about their academic background, please don't worry. Because now what will happen is, every now and then you are going to listen to my stories of my very good friend who cleared this exam in the very first attempt. And just a disclaimer, she was very average student. She was very average student. She had secured in graduation and postgrad somewhere around 48%. and I was so-called Delhi University topper, gold medalist with 90% marks, and I'm not proud of the fact. Trust me, I'm not. Because at the end of it, she cleared the exam in the very first attempt, and I could not clear the exam even after 3 attempts. So the point here is, if you have average academic background, doesn't matter. If you've not scored well in your graduation, post-graduation, absolutely doesn't matter. If you have not good things to boast about in your DAF, as in leadership and hobbies और ये सब फलाना वगैरह, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. मेरे पास बहुत कुछ था DAF में लिखने के लिए. क्या हुआ? क्लियर तो नहीं हुआ ना? All that matters is that you are diligent, you are disciplined, and you're following the right strategy. और सोसाइटी जैसे पेपर में, एथिक्स जैसे पेपर में, एसे में, strategy becomes very important because we do not have a standard book. We really don't know what kind of questions can be asked. So we have to rely on the syllabus which is provided by the UPSC. We have to rely on previous year questions which will be acting as a reference point for all of us. Is that very clear? Okay. So this is how we are going to proceed. Why Indian society, what to be studied in Indian society, and how to be studied. Okay. So first question that arises is, why are we studying Indian society? So everyone out there, do you want to contribute? I know many of you might want to do that. So let's make the class slightly participative. So why do you think that we need to study Indian society? What's so special about Indian society that they have made us study this subject? Because 2013 से पहले तो इंडियन सोसाइटी का सेक्शन ही नहीं था. ऐसा क्या हुआ that UPSC thought कि नहीं, they should study Indian society separately. So what's so special about this section? Why are they making us study Indian society? Contribute. क्या लगता है आपको? Somebody is asking about the classes. यार ये depend करता है that what is the speed. On an average 12 classes, 12 to 13 lectures for Indian society. ठीक है, but that depends on the speed. कभी कभी 15 तक चले जाते हैं, but I think 12, 13 would be more than enough. I don't think we need to go beyond that. Very quickly, why do you think we need to study Indian society? What's so special about it? To know the problems in Indian society. Makes sense. Absolutely. To know about the problems which are there in Indian society. Anything else? To make a better coordination with the people, society makes a person, fine. To know the different dimensions. Makes sense. Anything else? Yeah, absolutely correct. I totally agree with these points. Now see, एक बात का हमेशा ध्यान रखना, हम जो भी क्लास में डिस्कस करेंगे, everything would have a relevance and you'll slowly and gradually would know about that. If you have to work for the society, one need to know about it. Very good, Ravi. Very good, Suraj. Absolutely correct. पहले पता तो हो जिस society को administer करने जा रहे हो, what are the nuances about that Indian society. Fine. Absolutely. Fine. So more or less, we have an understanding that why are we studying Indian society. More or less, you guys have answered that. To know about the nuances of Indian society. Civil servant should know about the social structure, what are the issues, everything. Brilliant. Now, let me give you a brief understanding that why are we studying Indian society? First and foremost, we need to develop a perspective. Fine, I agree to whatever you guys are saying. Absolutely correct. But one thing we need to realize is, fine, we should know about the nuances of Indian society. Fine, we should know what kind of social structures, institution, or the problems which are existing in the society. Absolutely correct. But at the end of it, knowing those structures, institutions, and problems, the ultimate objective is to provide solutions to the problems which are existing in the Indian society. In order to ensure efficient administration, in order to ensure good governance, so whether it is delivery of services, whether it is access to various resources, whether it is identification of the beneficiaries, just one disclaimer, I have yet not started teaching, don't worry about it. पढ़ाएंगे हम 1-1.5 घंटे बाद, अभी आराम से चलते हैं, हम जब गप्पे मार रहे हैं, ठीक है? So basically, to understand all the nuances and after understanding the nuances, to provide the solutions to the existing problems. That's the job of the administrator, and that is why you are studying Indian society. But tell me something, can you provide the solutions to the problem without developing a thought process? without developing a perspective. So the first and foremost thing which needs to be focused upon is basically to develop a perspective about the Indian social system. Not only to develop the perspective, but also finally, that is what you guys have mentioned, most of you, that to sensitize the officials about the discourses or the nuances of Indian society. And based on that understanding, we have to provide the solutions to the problem. Now, let me just give you a brief idea and just hold on your thoughts for 2 minutes. Just pay attention. What do I mean by developing a perspective? Being your teacher, being your mentor, I can tell you what are the positives of implementing Uniform Civil Code and what are the challenges, right? But ultimately, whether Uniform Civil Code should be implemented or not, you should have your own understanding. मेरा तो काम है, मैं लास्ट में क्लास में बता ही दूंगी कि क्या करना चाहिए. But as an individual, you should have a perspective on every issue because there is no guarantee what kind of question UPSC is going to ask. And my job in this classroom is not to spoon feed you, but to prepare you to face any question which is being asked by UPSC. And that's my guarantee, and I'm quite good at it. I know from my previous experiences that we have worked, and in that situation, students have also contributed. They have really worked hard. Okay? So I am pretty confident about it. कि थोड़ी मेहनत करेंगे, and we will be able to answer every question which is asked in UPSC, provided you are successful in developing a thought process. Now let me give you an example. हमने पढ़ाई नहीं करी है उस बारे में, लेकिन हमें पता है एटलीस्ट ट्राइबल्स के बारे में you must have heard of. हम डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे, बट ट्राइबल्स के बारे में you have some idea, you've studied in your polity and everything, right? So with respect to tribals, एक कहानी सुना के हम आगे बढ़ते हैं. तो क्या हुआ, एक जनरली ट्राइबल्स के बारे में इट इज बीइंग सेड दैट दे आर वेरी होमोजेनस, दे आर वेरी अनस्ट्रैटिफाइड, मतलब डिवाइडेड नहीं है, ठीक है, अपना यूनिक कल्चर है, दे हैव देयर ओन यूनिक वे ऑफ लाइवलीहुड. दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव नोन अबाउट द ट्राइबल्स. So prior to British rule, this was true also about tribals. Tribals by forest areas mein they used to stay, they used to reside in hill areas, they had their own culture, they had their own livelihood, shifting cultivation and everything, and they were living peacefully. But with the penetration of British forces, there was a radical transformation which took place, and the tribal life got disrupted. Their culture started getting dominated because of Christian missionaries. Their livelihood opportunities started getting disrupted because Britishers ने बहुत सारे forest acts वगैरह पास कर दिए थे, तो shifting cultivation वगैरह forbidden हो गई थी. They did not have access to the forest produce. अभी हम पढ़ा नहीं रहे, डिस्कस कर रहे हैं. तो ये सारी दिक्कतें आई, तो फिर ट्राइबल रिवोल्ट स्टार्ट हो गए. यू मस्ट हैव डन योर मॉडर्न इंडियन हिस्ट्री, राइट? सो यू मस्ट हैव स्टडीड भाई संथल रिबेलियन हुआ, कोल अपराइजिंग हुई, मुंडा रिवोल्ट हुआ. So at the time of independence, there was a debate. But the major problem which our Indian leadership was confronting was the consolidation of the tribals, because tribals were revolting. So now it was that what kind of perspective should be there with respect to the tribals. So different suggestions came. One, there was a suggestion by a person जिनका नाम था Verrier Elwin, British anthropologist थे. He said that tribals are very distinct. So a policy of isolation should be followed. कुछ लिखना नहीं, सिर्फ सुनो. So Verrier Elwin said कि भाई policy of isolation should be followed with respect to tribals because they are very unique, they are very distinct. So if they are going to interact with the mainstream society, then they are going to, they are going to, how should I put it, which word? Retaliate, because they would not want their culture to be get dominated. So in order to keep them safe, in order to preserve their distinct culture, we should keep them in isolation. So वो national park approach उन्होंने suggest करी. वहीं पे पिक्चर में आए G.S. Ghurye. He is father of Indian sociology. He said कि नहीं, these tribals are nothing but backward Hindus. They appear to be different because they are not properly assimilated in the Hindu fold. So you just have to treat them as backward Hindus and you have to bring them within the fold of Hindu community. बात साफ हो गई. दो पर्सपेक्टिव थे. Enters into the picture Jawaharlal Nehru. He said नहीं, neither we want isolation nor we want assimilation. I want these tribals to be integrated. Thought process क्या आया? Integration. Integration मतलब they should be brought within the fold of mainstream society, but their unique culture and their unique livelihood should be respected. So tribals should progress, but they should progress in their own way. Is that clear? And based on that, tribal Panchsheel policy Jawaharlal Nehru ने suggest कर दी. And based on that, various provisions in the constitution were added. Is that clear? So now, did you understand? There were three perspectives existing with respect to tribals: isolation, assimilation, and integration. Finally, Indian society, Indian government adopted which perspective? Integration. यहां तक स्टोरी खत्म हुई. तो अब आप लोगों को क्या पर्सपेक्टिव डेवलप करना है विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू ट्राइबल? इंटीग्रेशन का. So that has to remain in your subconscious mind, that whenever you are looking towards tribal society, whenever you are dealing with tribal issues, whenever you are trying to provide solutions to the tribal problems, the approach, the perspective that has to be followed is that of integration. That you should provide them education, you should provide them health, you should provide them infrastructure, but make sure their individual culture and livelihood is not getting disrupted. Is that very clear? ठीक है. अब उस थॉट प्रोसेस से क्या फायदा होता है? The moment you know what should be the perspective towards tribals, whenever you are confronting the problems related to tribals, you will be able to provide efficient solution. लेकिन अगर आपको पता ही नहीं है कि पर्सपेक्टिव क्या है टुवर्ड्स ट्राइबल्स, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ सॉल्यूशन विल यू प्रोवाइड? इज दैट क्लियर? इज इट क्लियर? I should know that whether did you understand the intention with which I told you this entire story. Is this clear for everyone? Just tell me this much, that whatever story that I told you, did you understand this much? The story is clear for everyone out there? ठीक है. Now I'll give you a small example. You will understand it better, and this time it will be slightly less academic. Migration पता है सबको? Everybody is aware about migration. ठीक है. एक रिपोर्ट आई थी, अभी हम पढ़ नहीं रहे हैं, वी आर जस्ट चिट चैटिंग. ठीक है. जब पढ़ेंगे तो बता दूंगी, तो घबराना नहीं. माइग्रेशन पे एक 12th 5-year प्लान, उसके बाद तो प्लान ही आना बंद हो गए. ठीक है. सो 12th 5-year प्लान में क्या हुआ था? एक एक्सपर्ट रिपोर्ट आई थी अर्बन पावर्टी पे, पावर्टी इन अर्बन एरियाज. तो फिर उनसे बोला गया कि व्हाई डू यू थिंक ये स्लम्स इतने प्रोलिफरेट कर रहे हैं, क्या दिक्कत है? सो एवरीबडी यूज्ड टू से माइग्रेशन इज अ प्रॉब्लम, माइग्रेशन इज द रीजन व्हाई स्लम्स आर प्रोलिफरेटिंग, वी शुड स्टॉप माइग्रेशन. Everybody used to say this. भाई सारी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन यही बात कर रही थी, गवर्नेंस यही बोल रहा था, that migration is a problem and that is why slum is getting proliferated. फिर 12th 5-year plan में this report got published, expert report on urban poverty. It said नहीं, migration is not a problem for slum proliferation. Actually, the reason behind slum proliferation is failure of housing policies in the urban areas. And why that thing happened, just see how the perspective helps you. One perspective says migration is a problem, you have to tackle migration. The second perspective says migration is bound to happen in India. You have the fundamental right under Article 19 to migrate, provided there are certain restrictions, but then you have the fundamental right to migrate. And migration is the most natural phenomena in a country like India. But India is a vast country. No two regions can be equally developed. This much we understand. There are two regions, let us say A and B. Do you think they will be equally developed? Obviously, that's not possible, right? By different geographical factors है, historical conditions है, availability of resources है, तो बहुत सारे factors हैं कि कोई भी दो region एक साथ develop नहीं हो सकते, एक जैसे they cannot be developed. So now the situation was that migration is bound to happen in India. Because everybody wants to have better opportunities. तो चाहे वो social factor हो, economical factor हो, political factor हो, cultural factor हो, शादी हो. For marriage only half of the population gets migrate. So the point here is migration is bound to happen. It's your fundamental right to move or start any business or reside in any which place. So now the issue is that you have to look at the problem of slum proliferation from a different perspective. You should have to stop blaming migration. You should look at what is the reason. So reason is not migration. Reason is skewed migration. Reason is development is concentrated in certain pockets of India. That is the problem. Problem is that the destination areas where people are migrating, the governance is not effective. You are not able to provide the infrastructure which can easily absorb people. Perspective badla. ठीक है? So just because you have changed your perspective with respect to migration, the issue was of slum proliferation, your solutions will change. ये फायदा होता है पर्सपेक्टिव का. प्रॉब्लम्स हमेशा सेम रहती हैं, सेम एज इन जब तक सॉल्व नहीं होती तब तक सेम रहती है. तो स्लम प्रोलिफरेशन, ट्राइबल हेल्थ, ट्राइबल एजुकेशन, ट्राइबल कल्चरल प्रेजर्वेशन, प्रॉब्लम सेम है, but the solution that you are going to provide will depend upon the perspective that you are holding with respect to that issue. Is this very clear for everyone? कहानी क्लियर हुई? अब ये तीनों पॉइंट्स को एक साथ देखो एंड टेल मी, कैन आई से दिस इज द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ मोस्ट ऑफ योर आंसर्स? Just look at it and tell me, can we say this is the structure of most of your answers? The introduction constitutes the perspective. Body is related to the nuances or the issues, and solutions constitutes the conclusion. Now, why did I give you this? I gave you this reason is whenever you are reading any article in the newspaper, try to look, and obviously that article should be relevant from the society perspective. So you should look at or read the article from these three things. So first, you should have a perspective. Once you have a perspective, only then these issues will make some sense for you. Up, women should be allowed entry in the temple or not. Sabrimala issue. Bhai, I can tell you the pros and the cons. The arguments in favor of Sabrimala movement and the arguments against that. But ultimately, you should have a perspective na ki किस premise पे you are studying women's entry in Sabrimala? From the perspective of women empowerment? From the perspective of gender equality? Did you get my point? So first you need to have a perspective, then you study the problems and then you provide the solutions. Is this very clear? This is the weightage. Let's talk business. Bhai, aisa to hai nahi that we have come here just because we want to study Indian society and we are very fond of it. We are very business oriented people. If that subject doesn't have relevance in your mains or prelims, we would not be investing our time. I have not added 2021 because I will be taking it tomorrow. But anyhow, let me just tell you, 2021 में 80 marks. Again, 6 questions have been asked. Last year तक क्या होता था? 3 questions 10 marker, 3 questions 15 marker. This time 4 questions 15 marker and 2 questions 10 marker. So 80 marks paper has been asked from society. तो अगर आप trend देखो, so past 4 years 90, 75, 75 and this time 80. So quite a good chunk of questions have been asked from Indian society. So obviously we need to put in efforts. Now this is how the syllabus looks like. The point of the problem here with respect to syllabus is that the syllabus is very broadly defined. That is the only issue as far as syllabus is concerned. Broadly defined as in salient feature of Indian society, but nowhere it is mentioned what exactly constitutes salient feature. That has left on to us to decide, to discover that, what according to us is salient feature. So just one information, salient feature means something which gives a unique character to that entity. तो अगर salient feature of Indian society पूछ रहे हैं तो उससे हमारा मतलब है what are those features which lends a unique character to Indian society, that is referred as salient features. You have 2 minutes. Give me the list. What according to you are the salient features of Indian society? Very quickly, give me the list. Yellow part is not visible. So sorry. Okay? This is role of women and women organization. Role of women and women organization in the yellow part. I'll make sure next time से हम ऐसा कुछ PPT रखेंगे ही नहीं. दिक्कत नहीं होगी फिर. Salient feature of Indian society, role of women and women organization, effect of globalization on Indian society, social empowerment, communalism, regionalism, secularism, population and associated issues, poverty, developmental issues, urbanization, problem and their remedies. This is what we have. Yellow part में लिखा है role of women and women organization. Okay. Cultural diversification, caste, anything else? What are the salient feature of Indian society? Patriarchy, religion, culture. Okay. Anything else? Unity in diversity. Fine. First and foremost, the salient feature is diversity. Diversity with respect to language, diversity with respect to religion, diversity with respect to region, with respect to race, with respect to ethnicity. I did not add here class-based diversity because that is not specific to India. Class-based diversity is existing in different societies. So that is not a salient feature of India. So class-based diversity I have not added here. But rest, these are the basic, or caste hum alag se lenge. So these are the reasons, or these are the factors which is contributing to diversity in India. Now per se diversity is not a threat, but with respect to diversities there are various problems which are existing. For example, linguistic nationalism. For example, communalism. Regionalism. Ethno-nationalism. Now, not every topic is given in your syllabus. In your syllabus, what is given is regionalism and communalism. Linguistic nationalism, racial intolerance and ethno-nationalism is something that we have deconstructed. Is that clear? Okay. Based on that, there is another salient feature, and that is unity in diversity, as mentioned by some of you. Absolutely correct. Another salient feature is joint family, caste system, patriarchy. Secularism. The kind of secularism which is practiced in India is different from West, from where the concept has originated. So that makes secularism a salient feature in context of Indian society. Then the next aspect that we have is multiculturalism. India is a multicultural society. Multiculturalism basically means coexistence of different cultures, that is different religion, different ethnicity. So coexistence of different religious, ethnic, cultural groups within the society is referred as multiculturalism. Write it down. Write down the first concept, multiculturalism. Whenever I'm going to introduce a concept, I will make you write the definition so that you can refer it in your future aspect. Just one brief idea, whenever or wherever you are writing your notes, draw a margin. I know you might be finding it very juvenile, but draw a margin. Reason being, and a thick margin. If there is any updation related to that particular topic or any current data or any current news, you can write it down. So the consolidation of material will happen at one place. You don't have to search for the material at different places. Draw a margin and write. So write down the first concept, multiculturalism, right? It refers to cultural diversity. It refers to cultural diversity, full stop. Coexistence, first point, it refers to cultural diversity, full stop. Second, coexistence of different religious, coexistence of different religious, ethnic, cultural groups within the society, full stop. People have a tendency to retain, celebrate, and pass on their unique culture. People have a tendency to retain, to celebrate, and pass, P-A-S-S, pass on their unique culture. Full stop. This is what is multiculturalism. It is coexistence of different religion, ethnic groups, different cultural groups within the society, where people have a tendency that they are going to preserve, they are going to celebrate, they are going to promote their unique, distinct culture. Is that clear? There are two, write down, there are two schools of thoughts within multiculturalism. There are two schools of thoughts within multiculturalism. I think somebody wrote in the response portal. Salad bowl and melting pot. There are two schools of thoughts within multiculturalism. Salad bowl and melting pot. Simple है. Salad bowl देखा है? You prepare a salad, so you are adding different ingredients, but all those ingredients are retaining their individual flavor. Let us say I have created a salad, I've prepared a salad, you've added tomato, you've added onion, you've added radish to it, cucumber to it, and after that the individual flavor of the ingredients are retained. So salad bowl theory of multiculturalism says that different cultures came together, they get integrated, but their unique distinctiveness is still retained. Whereas if I talk about melting pot, so you add different ingredients to a melting pot dekha hai, then you churn it, you create a dish, but the individual flavor of those ingredients are lost. So that is melting pot. Likho, write down. Salad bowl describes heterogeneous society. Salad bowl describes heterogeneous society where different cultures are brought together, as the ingredient of the salad, where different cultures are brought together as the ingredient of the salad, but the individual flavor is retained, instead of merging into a single homogeneous culture. Instead of merging into single homogeneous culture. Clear? Next, write down melting pot. Melting pot. People of different culture melt together. Deserting, मतलब छोड़ देना, deserting their individual culture, and getting fully assimilated into predominant society. Getting fully assimilated into whichever society is there. So predominant society, जो predominant society है उसमें fully assimilate हो जाना, that is known as melting pot. ठीक है? So our constitution, it follows what is known as salad bowl theory. We have always talked about preserving the culture. And if you look at the various constitutional provisions which are being provided, that clearly shows that what we follow is the salad bowl theory of multiculturalism. Ideally, this should be the case. So whenever there is a dilemma that what kind of multiculturalism are we supposed to promote, it has to be salad bowl. At least the constitution says this. Okay, so ultimately what constitution says, it prevails because it is the most supreme or superior law which is existing in context of Indian society. So at the end of it, what matters is that the nuances or the provisions of the constitution needs to be upheld. So according to constitutional provision, it is the salad bowl theory of multiculturalism which needs to prevail in context of India. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? So are the salient features of Indian society clear? You have joint family, you have caste system, patriarchy, secularism, diversity, problems related to the diversity, then you have multiculturalism. Is this clear? Do you want to add something else to it? Okay? So that is deconstruction of the syllabus. Role of women and women organization we will discuss when I'm discussing patriarchy. वो मैंने आपको deconstruction इसलिए दिया था, थोड़ी clarity हो जाएगी what more is supposed to be studied which is beyond the obvious in the syllabus and how we are going to study it. तो आज हम शुरू करेंगे joint family से, next class जितना लगेगा time, and then we'll start with caste system, and then I'll start with patriarchy, that is role of women and women organization, and then we will talk about diversity. This is how we are going to proceed. Is that clear? The next topic that we have is effect of globalization on Indian society. So as far as effect of globalization is concerned, that's the home assignment for you. Obviously, I'll discuss in the class, but let me tell you why it is a home assignment. See, the topic in the syllabus is effect of globalization on Indian society. But then do you understand that Indian society is too vast to be studied in entirety? So obviously anything under the sun will fall into this topic. So how would you prepare yourself? So what we decided was that let's divide Indian society in two parts. One, the impact on the structure of Indian society, and another is the impact on the culture. And with respect to structure, let's divide it into two parts. Impact on the section and impact on the institution. So how globalization has impacted women, it has impacted old age, it has impacted youth, it has impacted child, person with disability, transgender, SC, ST, etc. Similarly, what is the impact of globalization on institutions? How the family has underwent a change, how marriage as an institution, how caste, religion, media, education system has underwent a change because of the impact of globalization. Now at least you have a clarity that on what direction the topic has to be taken. So just to have a clarity that at least एक direction तो हो कि किस direction में पढ़ना है. So उसके लिए we have done this. Ultimately, then what is the impact of globalization on culture? And majority times the question is asked from this area. And we'll just see that they have a tendency of repeating the question. This time, thankfully, they didn't ask globalization because otherwise it could have been very monotonous. So what is the impact of globalization on culture? Standard question आता है, अलग-अलग तरीके से पूछते हैं, but the answer remains the same. Now, why did I say this is going to be a home assignment? Because as far as these areas are concerned, once I'm done with family, the last topic would be impact of globalization. Once I'm done with caste or religion, we will discuss the impact of globalization. This would be the last lecture of society. So that we will consolidate, we'll revise all the content which we have studied in the subsequent classes. This is basically based on examples. Obviously, I will be giving you examples in the last lecture, but then you should think about your own unique examples. Again, it's the relative performance which matters. So let me just tell you very briefly. Homogenization का मतलब होता है uniform culture. मतलब globally, the culture has become uniformed. So there is emergence of uniformity in culture. आपका distinct culture has been lost. So uniformity in culture. There is a development of a new culture that is referred as global culture. So that is homogenization. For example, McDonaldization of food habits. That is nothing but homogenization. Obsession with English language. That is nothing but homogenization. I'm giving you certain examples. Okay? You can make use of these examples to further create your own examples. So, McDonaldization of food habits is example of uniform culture. Obsession with English language is again the example of homogenization. Obsession with Netflix. Okay? Obsession with Game of Thrones. Obsession with Money Heist. That if you've not watched Game of Thrones, if you've not watched Money Heist, your purpose of survival is being defeated. I don't know, I have quoted this example before also because that example has stayed with me. I still remember Game of Thrones ka last season aaya tha, and one of my friend asked me that, Smriti, did you watch that last season of Game of Thrones? And I was like, nahi yaar, I'm not into Game of Thrones. And the friend was like, what are you saying? मतलब इस पे तो दोस्ती टूट सकती है, that you know you are not fond of Game of Thrones. I was like, you didn't tell me before that the criteria for the friendship is Game of Thrones. Otherwise, मैं दोस्ती ही नहीं करती. ये नहीं था कि मैं Game of Thrones देख लेती, मैं दोस्ती ही नहीं करती. So the point here is, what I'm just trying to say is that there is an obsession. So that is a creation of homogenized culture. Whereas hybridization is global plus local. That is hybridization. Customization, जिसको आप कह सकते हो glocalization. I'll discuss this in detail in the last lecture, but I'm just giving you an idea so that you can search for your own examples. Glocalization is global plus local, right? So, for example, McDonald's not selling beef product. It's an example. Beef products हमारे यहाँ allowed नहीं है. So, McDonald's not selling beef products, right? So, that is an example of glocalization. Gobi Manchurian. That is nothing but example of globalization. Jeans culture is an example of homogenization. But wearing kurta with jeans, I don't know, you guys have not witnessed that era. But I remember जब मैं अपने college days में थी, एक नया culture start हुआ था. Let me just brief you about the time period. So 2003 से लेकर 2009 तक का जो वो पूरा period था, I have actually seen people were obsessed with jeans plus kurta. So that is globalization. Very JNU culture. Okay. So let's put it this way. Is this very clear? So that is globalization. Okay. Similarly, the foreign movies, the Hollywood movies getting dubbed in regional language is globalization. The emergence of Hinglish, Hindi plus English, this is nothing but the example of globalization. So that is nothing but hybridization. Clear hai? Then we have revival of local culture. Celebration of International Yoga Day. That is nothing but revival of local culture. Celebration of International Yoga Day. Religious revivalism. कैसे हो रहा है, कैसे देखने को मिलता है religious revivalism? Proliferation of godmen. बाबा लोग आ रहे हैं ना आजकल, निर्मल बाबा, राम रहीम, ठीक है. So these are nothing but proliferation of god men. That is religious revivalism. Religion revive कर रहा है, revival of local culture हो रहा है. अभी national education policy ने बोला ना, education in mother tongue, at least at the elementary level. This is nothing but example of revival of local culture. Look for such examples. क्योंकि अगर question यहां से बना, all you need to do is writing examples. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? So look for such examples. Prepare at least 6 or 7 examples of each. 15 number का question आएगा, लिखना यही है. I'll just show it to you. Answer always remains the same. It's just that depending upon the nature of the question, थोड़ा सा introduction conclusion change होता है. But if the question is coming with respect to the culture, answer remains the same. Is this very clear? So try to look for more examples. Is this very clear? Next topic that we have is social empowerment. But before we proceed, communalism, regionalism, secularism, it would be covered as a part of salient feature of Indian society and the problems associated with diversity. Now comes the question social empowerment. Now, इसको separately पढ़ाने की जरूरत नहीं है. I'll tell you the reason. What exactly is social empowerment? First, we need to understand that. So write down a definition. Write down social empowerment. It refers to, social empowerment लिखो, it refers to autonomy in decision making. It refers to autonomy in decision making and confidence. It refers to autonomy in decision making and confidence to bring about changes. Confidence to bring about changes in the structure of society, in the structures of society, which has kept them marginalized, which has kept them marginalized over the years, which has kept them marginalized over the years. I'll repeat. Social empowerment refers to autonomy in decision making and confidence to bring about changes in the structures of society which has kept them marginalized over the years. ठीक है? एक लाइन और लिखो and then you will understand why it is not the need to study it separately. Write down. In the absence of social empowerment, in the absence of social empowerment, no amount of economic or political empowerment, no amount of political or economic empowerment will yield the desired results, will yield the desired results. I'll repeat. In the absence of social empowerment, no amount of political or economic empowerment will yield the desired results. Full stop. अब समझ आया मैं क्या कहना चाह रही हूं? Now see, the problem is the government is focused. It's not about this government. It's about the government over the years. We have only focused on political and economic empowerment without looking into the larger picture of social empowerment. What I mean is that you have given political empowerment to women at the grassroots level by providing them reservation with respect to panchayat and municipality. Okay? Now, in that context, they did get political representation. They did participate, they facilitated, they did become sarpanch. But then, even after becoming the sarpanch, majority of the women do not have autonomy in decision making. There is a concept which is existing, which is known as sarpanch pati, mukhiya pati. Are you aware of that? Right. So despite political empowerment, in the absence of social empowerment, the intended results have not been yielded. Similarly, economic empowerment. You have provided women access to jobs, right? They have got enough representation, not enough, but yes, substantial representation in the labor market. But even after that, whatever money that they have been earning, they do not have the autonomy to spend those money. In fact, there was a report by National Family Health Survey, report number 3, if I'm not wrong. It said that only 89%, 89% of the women do not have the autonomy to spend the money that they themselves are earning. So it's only 11% of the women who have the autonomy. 89% of the women do not have the autonomy to spend the money that they are earning. Did you get my point, right? So you are trying to empower them economically. You are trying to empower them politically. But in the absence of autonomy in decision making, in the absence of confidence to bring about changes in the social aspect, social empowerment would not be guaranteed. Can this become the conclusion of most of our questions with respect to vulnerable sections? The government has provided reservation to SC/ST community, but social empowerment is still being denied to them, right? Even the sarpanch from the SC community is not allowed to sit on the chair with the other members present there. Why? Because the caste rigidities is still prevalent in our society. Similarly, tribals, they are being looked down upon. They do not have the autonomy with respect to decision making. They do not have the confidence to lead the process of social change in the society. So in the absence of social empowerment, the political economic empowerment would not yield the desired result. Is that very clear for everyone out there? Is this very clear? Next, population.
Question.
Next question is population and associated issues. Just one disclaimer. एक ये जो topic है poverty and developmental issues, this I will discuss in social justice, because in your social justice there is a topic poverty and hunger. So I will be discussing this with poverty and hunger. So poverty and developmental issues हम society में discuss नहीं करेंगे. Population and associated issues is the most important topic. Reason भी पेपर 2 में भी पूछा जाता है. तो पेपर 2 में आपका एक section है vulnerable sections. So that I will cover here with population and associated issues. So child ho gaya, a person with disability, transgender, old age, everything would be covered here. So here we would be discussing about fertility, mortality, migration and vulnerable sections, population policy, everything would be discussed here. ठीक है. Then urbanization, their problems and their remedies, it is already deconstructed. तो यहाँ पे deconstruction की हमें जरूरत नहीं है. बस हाँ, population and associated issues को हम थोड़ा सा डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे कि what is the debate with respect to high population, what is the concept of demography, what is demographic dividend, fertility, mortality, migration, vulnerable sections, उनसे related सारी problems, फिर population policy क्या थी past में, क्या नई population policy आनी चाहिए, फिर current affairs से link. So all of that would be discussed here. Is this very clear? So with this, do you understand the what part? Why part we have done? This is the what part. How it is supposed to be prepared. Now, these are the previous year questions. The PPT would be provided to you. Now, my intention of providing these questions to you in today's lecture is just to give you an idea that what should be your thought process. So, हर question हम ये आज नहीं discuss करेंगे, but the questions would be discussed as in when we are proceeding with the topics. जैसे अगर joint family पे question आया, so when we are done with joint family, we'll discuss the question. Right? Patriarchy या women पे question है. Once we are done with women issues, we'll discuss the questions. So we'll discuss all the questions in the class, but today I just want to give you an idea that how you are supposed to prepare for it. ठीक है? पहला question पढ़ो एक बार. Discuss the various social मुझे आंसर नहीं चाहिए. We are not discussing the answers. Discuss the various social problems which originated out of speedy process of urbanization in India. एक question से what you can discover and how you can further take your preparation. So if you look at the question, one thing is for sure, urbanization is a progressive concept. ये तो हमें पता है ना. Urbanization is not just the residential movement from rural to urban area. It also depicts the change in your occupation from agriculture to industry or service sector, or it also depicts the change in your attitude, right? So basically, urbanization is seen similar to progress, development, right? But despite being a positively connoted term, there are problems associated with the urbanization because of the nature or the manner in which urbanization is taking place in India. वो हम बाद में पढ़ेंगे जब urbanization पढ़ेंगे. But मुद्दा यहाँ पे एक क्वेश्चन बताने का ये है कि sometimes the issue is very evident on face value that it is a positively connoted term. But even then you have to look for the counter arguments. I'll give you an example how you are supposed to prepare. Everybody has heard about child labor. ठीक है? Do you agree, each one of you, that child labor is a menace in Indian society? It's an evil. That means our first aspect should be to immediately abolish child labor. So if you are abolishing child labor, that is a positive thing. But I can ask a question, no, UPSC can ask a question. What are the negative consequences of abolishing child labor? Did you get my point? So sometimes things are quite obvious to us, but then you have to prepare a counter argument because you never know what kind of question UPSC can ask. Is this clear? तो जब भी कोई टॉपिक आप पढ़ते हैं, always be prepared for the counter argument. But even if abolition of child labor has its share of negative consequences, does not mean that you will not abolish child labor. You have to abolish, but make sure you take note of those negative consequences. In simple words, SWOT analysis सुना है? ये तो सुना है ना, स्ट्रेंथ, वीकनेसेस, अपॉर्चुनिटी, थ्रेट. So if I am abolishing child labor, what would be the threats? So while you are preparing child labor, you have to prepare the threats which are associated with abolishing child labor, and accordingly you can proceed with it. Is that very clear? Okay. So this is what I meant. Third question, I know yellow slide is not visible, I'll just read it out for you. Critically examine the effect of globalization on the aged population. ये डायरेक्ट है, मतलब ओल्ड एज, वुमेन, मैंने बोला ना इसी तरह से सवाल पूछेगा यूपीएससी. सो एग्जामिन द इफेक्ट ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन ऑन ओल्ड एज पॉपुलेशन. इट्स अ डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन. इफ यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड यू हैव द आंसर. नाउ इफ यू लुक एट दिस क्वेश्चन, ठीक है, सेकेंड क्वेश्चन देखो. अगेन दिस इज नॉट विजिबल, आई एम सो सॉरी, आई जस्ट रीड इट आउट फॉर यू. Why do some of the most prosperous regions have adverse sex ratio for women? Give your arguments. I'll repeat. Why do some of the most prosperous region, prosperity can be with respect to income, it can be with respect to opportunities, it can be with respect to education, with respect to technology, with respect to wealth creation, कुछ भी हो सकता है. prosperity के तो बहुत सारे parameters हो सकते हैं. भाई पंजाब भी prosperous है, हरियाणा भी है, दिल्ली भी है, मुंबई भी है, ठीक है ना. सो देर आर डिफरेंट एलिमेंट्स ऑफ प्रोस्पेरिटी, देर कैन बी डिफरेंट रीजंस, और तमिलनाडु भी है, सो देर आर डिफरेंट रीजंस फॉर प्रोस्पेरिटी. सो बेसिकली व्हाई डू सम ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रॉस्परस रीजंस हैज एडवर्स सेक्स रेशियो? एनसीईआरटी में एक स्टेटमेंट था that if you want to resolve the problem of adverse sex ratio का मतलब होता है when number of women is less than number of men. अब आप बोलोगे मैम ये तो क्वेश्चन अब रेलेवेंट ही नहीं है क्योंकि नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे रिपोर्ट नंबर 5 ने बोल दिया है that now the sex ratio is skewed in the favor of women. You have 1020 women per 1000 males. लेकिन just one disclaimer, जो नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे रिपोर्ट है उसकी एक्यूरेसी में थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम होती है क्योंकि जब भी डेटा आता है सैंपल सर्वे है, इसलिए उसकी एक्यूरेसी को क्वेश्चन किया जाता है. एंड इन द पास्ट ऑल्सो जब 2001 में हमारा 933 सेक्स रेशियो था, देन दे शोड इट to be somewhere around 970. जब हमारा according to census 2011 940 था, then according to National Family Health Survey report it was 991. So now if they are saying it is to be 1020, so we have to wait for the data from census which is postponed now. So let's see कब census आता है, तो उससे हमें और better data मिल जाएगा. But anyhow, that's not the point here. The point here is कि हमें ऐसा लगता है with education, with economic development, the problem of adverse sex ratio will change. So that is why the UPSC asked the question that despite prosperity, why do we still have adverse sex ratio? इसका मतलब है economic growth का, education का, opportunities का patriarchy से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. मतलब even if you are educated, because that depends now what kind of education is being provided to you. Even if you are economically dominant, even if there is technological prosperity, that does not determine that the attitude of patriarchy is going to undergo a change. That is why the paradox has been asked. कि देखो एक तरफ prosperity हो रही है, भाई अभी तो हम कहते थे ना कि rural areas हैं, backward areas हैं, developed नहीं है, technology नहीं है, education नहीं है, इसलिए हम पेट्रियार्की प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं. तो यूपीएससी ने ये भी दिखा दिया कि सबसे प्रॉस्परस एरियाज में ही एडवर्स सेक्स रेशियो है. यू हैव टू गिव द रीजंस व्हाई. इज दैट क्लियर? Is it me? So the paradoxes have to be prepared. UPSC has a tendency to ask such questions. Is that very clear? Similarly, life cycle of joint family. It depends upon the economic factors rather than social values. यहाँ हमारा concern question से नहीं है, that I'll discuss in the class. The issue here is life cycle. Now, usually what happened is a general perception which is existing in our society is traditionally we were joint and over the period of time we have become nuclear. UPSC asked the question life cycle. Life cycle का मतलब होता है cycle complete तो करो पहले. So traditionally we were joint. Over the period of time we have become nuclear. UPSC asked the question complete the life cycle. That how again from nuclear we are becoming joint. So the complete answer was supposed to be written. So that is the challenge. So the point here is whenever you are answering the question, read the question carefully. What is the overall demand? Next, how do Indian debates on secularism differ from West? बहुत ही direct question है, ये सिर्फ मैं इसलिए दिखा रही हूँ. Same question, ad verbatim was asked in 2018. UPSC has a tendency to repeat. In fact, जो इस बार आपका ऐसे का टॉपिक आया ना, hand that rocks the cradle rule the world, same ऐसे टॉपिक was asked by UPSC in 2005. Is that clear? So एक आइडिया होता है कि कहीं ना कहीं they have a tendency to repeat the questions. So at least थोड़ा बहुत past year के questions one should read. Now in this question, in this topic, read the third question. Before that, fourth वाला देख लो. Discuss the positive negative effect of globalization on women in India. Again a direct question. If you've studied, तभी वो deconstruction दिया था. You will get an idea in what direction the preparation has to be made. Then third question. How do you explain that the statistics that sex ratio in tribes is more favorable to women than sex ratio among scheduled caste? ये मैं क्यों बता रही हूं? आंसर नहीं पूछ रही हूं मैं आपसे. आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू से दैट यूपीएससी हैज अ टेंडेंसी. डेमोग्राफी होती है ना, तो दो तरह की डेमोग्राफी होती है, हम पढ़ेंगे डिटेल में. डेमोग्राफी का मतलब होता है कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ पॉपुलेशन. पॉपुलेशन एंड एसोसिएटेड इश्यूज है आपका टॉपिक. दो तरह की डेमोग्राफी होती है. एक फॉर्मल होती है जिसमें स्टेटिस्टिक्स होते हैं, और एक सोशल डेमोग्राफी होती है इन विच यू स्टडी दैट व्हाई दैट पर्टिकुलर स्टेटिस्टिक्स इज एग्जिस्टिंग, व्हाट आर द कॉज and what is the implication of that statistics. UPSC is not interested in formal demography. UPSC never asks you statistics. They ask you the reason behind that statistics. Census 2011 says that the scheduled caste mein the sex ratio is less favorable to women as compared to scheduled tribes. For example, Census 2011 की report ने कहा था that sex ratio among tribes is 990. This is Census 2011. And sex ratio among scheduled caste is 945. They are not interested in this data. They are interested in the analysis of the data, that why this is existing. Do you want to try this question? You want to try answering this question? Write down a question. लिखो यही question. Let's do one thing. Obviously, we have limited lectures. ऐसा तो है नहीं they are going to give me like 20-25 lectures. So we have limited lectures. तो दो तरह से पढ़ाई करते हैं. एक, I will teach you in the class and we'll study, and rest what we can do, we can simultaneously solve different kind of questions so that the ambit of preparation gets widened. ठीक है ना? So let's take this question. होम असाइनमेंट है, करके आना, नेक्स्ट क्लास में बात करेंगे. Write down the question. How do you explain that sex ratio in tribes is more favorable to women than sex ratio among scheduled caste? How do you explain that sex ratio among tribes is favorable to women than sex ratio among scheduled caste? ठीक है, दिस इज ऑलरेडी द क्वेश्चन विच यूपीएससी हैज गिवन. अब एक नया रिपोर्ट है ना, नेशनल फैमिली हेल्थ सर्वे रिपोर्ट, विच सेज दैट सेक्स रेशियो अमंग वुमेन इज 1020. हाउएवर सेक्स रेशियो एट बर्थ इज स्टिल बिलो द थ्रेशोल्ड सेट बाय डब्ल्यूएचओ. डब्ल्यूएचओ ने थ्रेशोल्ड सेट किया है कि सेक्स रेशियो एट बर्थ शुड बी एटलीस्ट 952 गर्ल्स with respect to 1000 boys, but according to National Family Health Survey report number 5, it is still 929, so it is below the threshold, right? Can we explain this paradox? There can be a question right now. Explain the paradox. यही करना है हमें. जो भी डेटा आप देखते हैं, 2 मिनट लगेंगे. Just think कि what is the social factor responsible behind that data and what can be the possible implication. So write down. Explain the paradox. On one hand, sex ratio has become skewed in favor of women in India. On one hand, sex ratio has become skewed in favor of women in India, whereas on the other hand, sex ratio at birth is still below the minimum threshold. Explain this paradox. वो शुरू में था ना, explain the paradox that on one hand sex ratio has become skewed in favor of women. On the other hand, sex ratio at birth is still below the minimum threshold. Paradox ही तो है, ठीक है ना? So you need to explain that. Think about it. 10 marker questions है. Try to look for the arguments. Let's see what arguments do you come up with. ठीक? इसमें क्या देख सकते हैं? देखो, थर्ड क्वेश्चन देखो. थर्ड क्वेश्चन, व्हाई आर द ट्राइबल्स रेफर्ड एज शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स? ठीक है, इंडिकेट द मेजर प्रोविजंस व्हिच आर इंश्राइंड इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फॉर देयर अपलिफ्टमेंट. नाउ व्हाई डिड आई मेक यू रीड दिस क्वेश्चन स्पेसिफिकली? कि यूजुअली हमें क्या लगता है, ये जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस वगैरह होते हैं, दैट इज रेलिवेंट फ्रॉम प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. मेंस में भी क्वेश्चन आ जाता है जहां पे डायरेक्टली पूछ लेते हैं व्हाट आर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस. ऐसे में क्या होता है, वन शुड ऑलवेज प्रिपेयर इन अ वेरी ब्रॉड मैनर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, हमें ट्राइबल से रिलेटेड है, मैं आपको एक तरीका बता देती हूं पढ़ने का, ये आप तैयार कर लेना. ठीक है, जैसे विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू डेफिनेशन, डू यू हैव अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन? आई थिंक आर्टिकल 366 एंड 342. देन विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू एजुकेशनल and economic interest, we have article 15, article 16, article 46, article 335. With respect to political empowerment, we have article 330, 332, 243D, 243T. Then you have with respect to administrative efficiency, we have 5th schedule and 6th schedule. Then with respect to cultural aspect, you have article 29. With respect to agency to monitor the welfare, you have article 338A. You know the provisions, but try to prepare the provisions like this so that थोड़ा सा वैल्यू एनरिचमेंट हो जाता है आंसर में, और कुछ नहीं है. Is that clear? So whether it is with respect to tribes, whether it is with respect to scheduled caste, whether it is with respect to women, whether it is with respect to minorities, try to prepare it like this. Is this clear? ठीक है? Read the third question. Very interesting question. There is a reason why am I making you read these questions. The spirit of tolerance and love is not only an interesting feature of Indian society from very early time, but it is also playing an important part at the present. The key word or the tail word in this question is elaborate. Now, very briefly, the spirit of love and tolerance, the question was asked in 2017. And if you remember, this was the period where there was a lot of debate going in the current affair or the current scenario with respect to rising intolerance. Remember, there was a statement made by Amir Khan's wife that India, I feel threatened, India is no longer a safe place to live, right? And everybody asked her to go to Pakistan and everything was happening that time. So both intolerance chal rahi thi. There were a lot of writers who have returned their rewards and everything. There were a lot of rationalists who were being killed. So a lot of issues were going on that time. तो एक spirit of intolerance थी उस समय. UPSC ने क्या question पूछा? The spirit of tolerance and love is not only an interesting feature of Indian society from the early times, but it is also playing an important part in present scenario. And the tail word here is elaborate. Elaborate का मतलब ही होता है that you assume the statement to be true. And you have to elaborate on that statement by giving examples. So right from ancient India, medieval India, modern India, post-independent India, and the contemporary India, you just have to give examples that how spirit of love and tolerance is prevailing in context of Indian society. There was no scope of writing about intolerance. Intolerance word mention भी नहीं करना था. वहीं पर अगर elaborate की जगह होता comment, discuss, क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन, क्रिटिकली एनालाइज, तब आप लिखते हैं इंटॉलरेंस के बारे में. यूपीएससी ने आपको स्कोप ही नहीं दिया इंटॉलरेंस के बारे में बात करने का. इसीलिए कहते हैं टेल वर्ड्स आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट because tail word defines the structure of your answer. It defines the context in which the question needs to be answered. Content vary kar sakta hai. Your examples can be very different from my example, but one fact remains the same for you and me both. Intolerance is not supposed to be discussed. Is this clear? So the tail words are very important. Just make a noting of it. ठीक है? Next question, हमने क्यों बात कर रहे हैं? The question is, the first part, distinguish between religiousness and communalism. ये बाद में discuss करेंगे. See the next line. Giving one example. आपको एक ही example देना है. Giving one example, how former, as in religiousness, has got transformed into latter, that is communalism, in independent India. Question पूछा 2017 में. What was so special about 2017? What was so special about 2017? बाबरी मस्जिद डिमोलिशन कब हुआ था? When was Babri Masjid demolished? 1992. 2017 becomes 25th year of Babri Masjid demolition. The question was asked. You just have to give one example where it shows that religiousness has transformed into communalism. And Babri Masjid is a perfect example where all the political parties, whether it was Congress or it was the current party, everyone has resorted to using religion for serving their political interest. And that is nothing but communalism. Communalism यही तो होता है when you use your religion to further your political interest. That is communalism. And in this context, did you understand why the question was asked? And they actually asked one example. तो आपको बहुत सारे examples नहीं देने थे. Just one example was required to be given. And actually बाबरी मस्जिद fit होता है. वो हम डिस्कस करेंगे पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस में कि बाबरी मस्जिद क्यों फिट होता है. आप 1984 एंटी सिख राइट्स भी लिख सकते थे. बट फिर हमने सोचा भाई 25th ईयर तो बाबरी मस्जिद को ही हुए हैं. सो द possibility of asking this question can be in relation to that, और वो perfect fit भी हो रहा था इस आंसर में. सो कहने का तात्पर्य है, what I mean to say is, if there is some incident 10 years 20 years, जैसे इस बार ट्राइबल्स पे क्वेश्चन आया, एंड ट्रस्ट मी, अगर मेंस 365 की क्लासेस देखी होंगी उसमें मैंने क्लियरली बोला था कि इस बार ट्राइबल्स पे क्वेश्चन आएगा. क्यों आएगा? उसका रीजन है 25th ईयर ऑफ पेसा, 15th year of Forest Right Act. So not necessarily they will ask you on PESA or FRA because that's quite obvious. But they might ask you on tribals and they did ask the question on tribals. तो ये थोड़ा सा होता है जो कहीं ना कहीं आप एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो कि क्वेश्चन बनता है. Is that very clear? ठीक है. यहां पे क्या देखें? सेकेंड क्वेश्चन देखो. ओहो, फिर से येलो स्लाइड है. रुको मैं रीड कर देती हूं. ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज जनरली सेड टू प्रमोट कल्चरल होमोजेनाइजेशन, बट ड्यू टू दिस cultural specificity appears to be strengthened in Indian society, and you have to elucidate. Elucidate basically means you have to give examples to explain your arguments. So globalization is generally said to promote cultural homogenization, but it is the cultural specificities which is getting strengthened. अब रुकना एक मिनट. Globalization is tend to promote cultural homogenization. However, it is the cultural specificities which are getting strengthened. It is the cultural specificity, revival of local culture and hybridization which is happening. Did you get the point? अगर ग्लोबलाइजेशन का इंपैक्ट ऑन कल्चर आता है तो क्वेश्चन इसी तरह का आता है. यह भी मैं आपको और एग्जांपल देके दिखा देती हूं. एक सेकेंड देखो, मैंने कहा था ना 2018 में क्वेश्चन वाज रिपीटेड, हाउ इज इंडियन कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सेक्युलरिज्म डिफरेंट फ्रॉम वेस्टर्न मॉडल ऑफ सेक्युलरिज्म. सेम क्वेश्चन दे हैव रिपीटेड. अब यहां आते हैं. एक सेकेंड. हां, ये क्वेश्चन देखो. आर वी लूजिंग आवर लोकल आइडेंटिटी फॉर ग्लोबल आइडेंटिटी? डिस्कस. इजंट इट द सेम क्वेश्चन? होमोजेनाइजेशन मतलब ग्लोबल आइडेंटिटी, local identity का मतलब hybridization and revival of local culture. So are we losing our local identity for the global identity? No, because along with homogenization there is hybridization and revival of local culture happening, and you have to give examples to explain this. Is this very clear for everyone? Next. Wait, इसमें भी आया था. देखो फोर्थ क्वेश्चन देखो. नेक्स्ट लास्ट ईयर का है. Is diversity and pluralism in India under threat due to globalization? Justify your answer. I told you ना. Thankfully इस बार नहीं पूछा. पिछले 3 सालों से सेम क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं. So the point here is diversity and pluralism in India under threat due to globalization? Don't you think answer remains the same? Diversity and pluralism is under threat because homogenization is happening. However, it is not actually under threat because hybridization and revival of local culture is happening. Is this very clear? तो स्टैंडर्ड क्वेश्चन है, कोई बहुत मारामारी है नहीं सोसाइटी के पेपर में. हाँ आदित्य, यू विल फाइंड दीज क्वेश्चंस डिफिकल्ट बिकॉज वी हैव येट नॉट स्टार्टेड. इसीलिए तो कह रही हूं पढ़ना जरूरी है. फिर मेरा काम ही क्या है? अगर खुद ही पढ़ लोगे तुम लोग तो फिर मेरी जरूरत ही क्या है? मेरी इंपॉर्टेंस इसीलिए बनती है क्योंकि सब्जेक्ट थोड़ा सा चैलेंजिंग होता है जब तक पढ़े नहीं होते हैं. ऑन अ सीरियस नोट आदित्य, ट्रस्ट मी, इट्स अ वेरी इजी सब्जेक्ट. Trust me, very easy. You just need to have patience for another 6 lectures. You just need to give me 6 lectures in total. Things will start falling in place. Trust me. ठीक है? Is this very clear? इस साल के क्वेश्चंस मैंने नहीं डाले हैं, वो मैं कल डाल दूंगी. ठीक है? So before we further proceed, this is the most basic thing which I can expect. Newspaper पढ़ लो यार. एक न्यूज़पेपर, see, no matter how much current affairs we are providing you through monthly magazines and how much we claim कि नहीं पढ़ लो हो जाएगा ये वो, I am not the kind who gives false hopes. ठीक है? तो थोड़ा तुम लोग को लगेगा कि नहीं मैम डरा दिया ये वो. देखो डरना, अभी डरना इज बेटर rather than एग्जाम में क्वेश्चंस देख के डर जाना. So trust me, it is better to be scared now rather than to be scared in the examination hall. So I genuinely believe whatever current affairs that is being provided to you by Vision or whichever institute you are referring to, good enough. Stick to that. बट एटलीस्ट रीड वन न्यूज़पेपर. उसका रीजन है थॉट प्रोसेस डेवलप होता है, यू बिकम कंफर्टेबल. ठीक है? और जरूरी नहीं है कि आप हिंदू ही पढ़ रहे हो. आपको इंडियन एक्सप्रेस अच्छा लगता है, आप इंडियन एक्सप्रेस पढ़ लो. आपको इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स पढ़ना है, जिसका जो शौक हो. आपको मिंट पढ़ना है, मिंट पढ़ लो. मिंट मुझे पर्सनली बहुत अच्छा लगता है क्योंकि उसके आर्टिकल्स बहुत रेलिवेंट होते हैं एंड द स्कोप ऑफ आस्किंग इन यूपीएससी इज ऑल्सो वेरी हाई. तो दैट्स माई चॉइस. बट अगर आपको हिंदू इंडियन एक्सप्रेस पढ़ना है, गुड इनफ फॉर यू. जो एक न्यूज़पेपर उठा लो, एक मैगजीन उठा लो, योजना, उसमें पूरी योजना पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, जो कवर पेज आर्टिकल होता है उसको पढ़ लो। इस बार फिलोसॉफिकल टॉपिक्स आ गए सारे, बट ऐसा तो नहीं है हर बार होगा, तो कभी कभी क्या होता है फॉर्डर मिल जाता है ऐसे राइटिंग के लिए और जीएस के क्वेश्चंस के लिए भी। तो योजना एक कोई मैगजीन उठा लो जिसका सिर्फ कवर पेज आर्टिकल जो है उसको पढ़ लो, वो डिटेल में होता है और उसमें भी सब कुछ पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है। पहली बार वेन एवर यू आर रीडिंग एक, sorry, I think I have to tell in English. I'm so sorry. So just take one Yojana magazine and take a highlighter. Just mark the important points with respect to that cover page article and just revise it. So that would be more than enough. So one newspaper reading, don't give it too much of time. 1 hour is max that is supposed to be given. So read the important editorial, open editorials, and one or two odd topics which you find important. And after 6 months of preparation, you will actually, and in fact, after society, you will get an idea that broadly what topics are supposed to be referred. So that would be enough. So one magazine, only the cover page article, one newspaper, your choice, whichever newspaper you are comfortable, and current affair magazines. Is that clear? The reading is important. Don't read newspaper for the purpose of, information seeking. Read newspaper from the perspective of seeking the thought process, seeking the analysis rather than information. There's a difference between the two. Is this clear? Other than that, class 12 की 2 NCRTs है, Indian Society and Social Change and Development. Nothing else is required. This is going to be more than enough. Is that very clear? So now we are starting with official lecture on Indian society. So the purpose of providing you this entire background, I hope it has served some purpose. You have gained some clarity at least कि हम पढ़ेंगे कैसे. I'm not saying that you've understood society. That was not my intention. It is just how is Times of India? To be very honest, Aditya, this time society question was actually asked from Times of India. हाँ तो ऐसा तो कहना बिल्कुल, और अगर टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट इफ आई वुड हैव बीन इन योर प्लेस, आई डोंट नो कि अकेडमिकली लोग क्या कहेंगे, बट टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया, डेली टाइम्स मत पढ़ना या पढ़ना हो तो वो भी पढ़ सकते हो फॉर रिक्रिएशनल पर्पस। अदरवाइज टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया मुझे तो ठीक लगता है, पता है क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि हिंदू और इंडियन एक्सप्रेस तो कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट वाले अपने करंट अफेयर्स में इंक्लूड करते ही हैं। इनफैक्ट वो जो क्वेश्चन नहीं आया था गिग इकोनॉमी वाला, दैट वाज एक्चुअली टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया में एक पूरा आर्टिकल था, और एक्चुअली यही आर्टिकल था गिग इकोनॉमी लीडिंग टू वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट, और अभी अगस्त में पूछा था। तो मेरे लिए तो मतलब मुझे तो ठीक ही लगता है टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया। इनफैक्ट मुझे पता नहीं क्यों लगता है कि हिंदू को इतना हवा बना रखा है। आई एम वेरी ओके विद टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया ऑल्सो। आई जस्ट वॉन्ट यू टू रीड वन न्यूज पेपर, सो विच एवर, क्योंकि हिंदू, इंडियन एक्सप्रेस, दे आर कवर्ड इन योर करंट अफेयर मैगजीन्स। तो मिंट इज अ बेटर ऑप्शन, द आर्टिकल्स ऑन गूगल जहां पे आपको वायर, प्रिंट, क्विंट, इन सब के आर्टिकल्स आर बेटर, टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया इज बेटर। तो मुझे तो यही लगता है मतलब, बट अकेडमिकली लोग बोलते हैं कि हिंदू और इंडियन एक्सप्रेस पढ़ो। ठीक है, एनीथिंग एल्स? Ma'am, maybe UPSC has set a trend of asking philosophical essays to balance the people of different origin coming to write. हो सकता है, हो सकता है, हो सकता है। I read Delhi Mint. हाँ, Vision I is value added material society. दिव्यांश, the material I have only prepared. क्लासरूम नोट्स नहीं है वो मटेरियल, सो बस इतना है कि वो अपडेटेड नहीं है। तो classroom would be a better option. Actually, that material is more relevant for the students who don't join our foundation program. ठीक है, तो that material was prepared 2 years back. So it is prepared from the classroom notes only, but it is not updated with respect to the data, with respect to the current emerging issues. So if you are a classroom student, you can stick to the classroom material, क्योंकि after some time you will realize कि यहीं से बना है। ठीक है, हाँ, only editorial would do. So vision material, this is what I meant. This is what I meant. I hope the doubts are clear. अब officially start कर दे, ठीक है? So let's start with society. Okay, this is how I teach. If you guys are aware of it, we start with the flow charts. So before every topic, I'll provide you a detailed flow chart so that during examination, all you need to do is revise the flow chart. This is how we are going to proceed. Concept of society in general. What are the basic attributes of any given society? Impact of British rule on Indian society. And then we'll start with the topic in the syllabus, that is salient feature of Indian society. Vaibhav, ma'am, while writing GS answers, some people say examiner should not know your sociology optional, otherwise the marks would be deducted. How do you get to know that you are from sociology optional? Are you writing Durkheim? Are you writing Weber? Are you writing Marx? No, you're not. But you are making use of the terminologies. Now, thankfully, Vaibhav, you have asked the question. I was actually waiting for this question. See, I'll just tell you one thing. एक वोकैबुलरी होती है हर सब्जेक्ट की, ठीक है ना. अब सुनो, सपोज करो पॉलिटी पढ़ रहे हो, ठीक है, एंड इन द पॉलिटी इफ यू आर नॉट कोटिंग केस लॉज, अब आपको बताना है दैट देयर इज अ डिमांड ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ क्रीमी लेयर among SC/ST community because the reservation is not giving you the desired result, because the benefits of reservation are getting cornered by the elite section, and this has been mentioned in M. Nagaraj case or Jarnail Singh case. आप ये तो नहीं कहोगे ना that you are saying creamy layer should be introduced, otherwise पता नहीं check करने वाला बुरा मान जाए. So the entire blame has to be put on the Supreme Court. That Supreme Court in M. Nagaraj case and Jarnail Singh case has talked about introduction of creamy layer among SC/ST. You are quoting your case laws in polity. Does it make you the student of law? It doesn't. Right? Are you getting the point? ठीक है ना? Similarly, you need to understand there is a vocabulary for every subject. Similarly, if you are quoting economic terminologies, उसका रीजन है यार, ये कंफ्यूजन भी क्यों आता है, क्योंकि इकोनॉमिक्स की टर्मिनोलॉजी हम न्यूज़पेपर में रोज पढ़ते हैं. तो आप रेपो रेट, रिवर्स रेपो रेट और फॉर दैट मैटर वी शेप्ड रिकवरी ऑफ इंडिया की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो ऐसा थोड़ी ना है कि आप इकोनॉमिक्स ऑप्शनल के स्टूडेंट हो जाओगे. सिमिलरली सोशियोलॉजी क्या है? इंडियन सोसाइटी इज व्हाट? एप्लीकेशन ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ इंडिया. So study of Indian society is definitely one element of sociology, right? तो आपको vocabulary तो use करनी पड़ेगी ना. यूपीएससी ने खुद पूछा है feminization of agriculture. There was a question which was asked in 2015. What are the factors responsible for feminization of agriculture in India? उससे पहले I used to teach feminization. बच्चे कहते थे मैम this is becoming very sociological. यूपीएससी ने पूछ लिया, सब शांत हो गए. I used to teach homogenization, hybridization, globalization with respect to globalization. सब बोलते थे मैम this is becoming very sociological. यूपीएससी ने पूछ लिया, सब शांत हो गए. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? ठीक है? So vocabulary is only a jargon till the time you don't know it. The moment you know what is modernization, the moment you know what is westernization, what is multiculturalism, ये तो बहुत obvious है बच्चे. ये कोई रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, ये वोकैबुलरी है जो यूज करनी है सब्जेक्ट में. उसके दो फायदे बताती हूं. एक, स्पेस बचती है. द मोमेंट यू राइट वेस्टर्नाइजेशन, आई डिस्कस इट टुडे विथ यू, द मोमेंट यू राइट मॉडर्नाइजेशन यू डोंट नीड टू एक्सप्लेन. अब सपोज करो आपको विमेन का कोई इशू बताना है और आपको बात करनी है दैट हाउ विमेन इज फेसिंग पेट्रियार्कल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस इन वर्क प्लेस. लेट अस सपोज मैंने लिख दिया ग्लास सीलिंग. The moment you write glass ceiling, then there is no need to explain. The moment you write pink collared jobs, there is no need to explain. The moment you write sexual division of labor, there is no need to explain. So it saves you time, it saves you space, it gives you enriched answer writing, it gives you the awareness to the examiner that you are well versed with the vocabulary of that subject. हाँ, ये मत लिखो कि किस फेमिनिस्ट स्कॉलर ने बोला है, ये मत लिखो कि मार्क्स ने कहा है रिलीजन इज ओपियम ऑफ मासेस, लेकिन रिलीजन इज ओपियम ऑफ मासेस वो फैक्ट है. Did you get my point? Don't quote Marx, don't quote Weber, don't quote Durkheim, but yes, you can make use. अब मैं कास्ट सिस्टम पढ़ाऊंगी तो मैं थोड़ी ना कास्ट सिस्टम लाई हूं. कास्ट सिस्टम I will have to teach you from the perspective of M. N. Srinivas, from the perspective of Louis Dumont, from the perspective of Andre Bete. घबराओ नहीं, मैं सिर्फ उसका आंसर दे रही हूं वेबर का. तो आपको ये नाम नहीं लिखने हैं, लेकिन इसके अलावा सारा कॉन्सेप्ट तो लिखना पड़ेगा ना. मैं कहां से कास्ट सिस्टम लेकर आऊं? Is this very clear? ठीक है. If I have to teach you patriarchy, तो मुझे feminist scholars का perspective भी तो पढ़ाना पड़ेगा. आप उनका नाम मत लिखो, but then concept तो लिखना पड़ेगा ना. ठीक है. Thank God you asked the question in the very first class. Yeah, I hope the doubt gets cleared. That's what I'm saying. You can refer thinkers, but you cannot quote them. That's what I'm saying. In the last section, which section बच्चे? Last section कौन सा था? किनशिप हम नहीं पढ़ते रिया, किनशिप हम नहीं पढ़ते, इसीलिए बहुत डिटेल हो जाएगा फिर, ठीक है? लेकिन जिस भी सेक्शन में आप पूछ रहे हो हम किनशिप नहीं पढ़ते हैं, ठीक? स्टार्ट करें. कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ सोसाइटी इन जनरल. लेट्स स्टार्ट. Let me explain. Let us suppose it is a system. ठीक है? Now, in the context of society, you have different individuals. One thing you will agree that we individuals, we are not, or we cannot live in isolation. We are social animals. We have a tendency to interact with each other, right? I am interacting with you, you are interacting with your family members, your peer group. So we can't live in isolation. We have a genuine tendency to interact with each other. But the interaction which is happening among us is not very random. It is not very haphazard. There is a certain pattern to this interaction. Is that very clear? So this pattern of interaction over a period of time leads to the development of social relationships. Now let us suppose we are interacting. ठीक है, I am an individual, I am interacting with you guys because we can't live in isolation. So this interaction that we are happening, which is happening between us, is not random. It is not haphazard. There is a certain pattern of interaction which is happening between us. मैं कोई randomly तो आपसे बात नहीं कर रही हूँ. There has to be a general pattern of interaction which is happening. So based on this pattern of interaction over a period of time, we tend to develop a relationship. ठीक है, that relationship can be of a teacher and a student, that can be a relationship of a mentor and a mentee, there can be a relationship of a parent and a child, there can be a relationship of a husband and a wife. So there can be different social relationships that you have developed based on the patterns of interaction which is happening among the individual members. It is this network of social relationships based on the pattern of interaction among the members which is known as society. So write down. The network of social relationship based on pattern of interaction, network of social relationships based on pattern of interaction between the individual members is referred as society. Between the individual members is referred as society. Between the individual members is referred as society. Any society, don't write now, any society for that matter has four basic attributes. Attributes matlab characteristic feature. One, the society needs to have a definite territory. Second, the membership of the society is largely based on progeny. Progeny is just an English term for reproduction. Matlab, how do you become a member of a certain society? By being born into that society. So by the process of reproduction, you become the member. ऐसा नहीं है. There are other things also like immigration, like adoption, but largely it is the process of reproduction by which the members of the society is determined. So that is reproduction. The society needs to have a common culture, and finally the society needs to be acting as an independent entity. So there are four basic attributes with respect to any society. The video is getting stuck. One second, let me just check. I'll repeat. Society is referred as a network of social relationship. I'll repeat. Society is referred as a network of social relationship based on pattern of interaction between the individual members. Pattern of interaction between the individual members. That is what we mean by society. Now, for any entity to be termed as a society, it should have 4 basic attributes. अरे यार एक रीजन बताती हूँ ये क्यों बता रही हूँ. कभी कभी क्या होता है, बहुत बेसिक क्वेश्चन पूछ लेते हैं, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय सोसाइटी. तब क्या बोलोगे कि पूरा इंडियन सोसाइटी पढ़कर आ गए, पर यही नहीं पता कि सोसाइटी की डेफिनेशन क्या है. सो आई हैव दिस हैबिट दैट बिफोर स्टार्टिंग एनी टॉपिक आई गिव यू द डेफिनेशन. Is that very clear? ठीक है. So there are 4 basic attributes of any given society. Definite territory. Second is progeny, that is the membership of the society is determined by the process of reproduction. ठीक है. Third is the common culture, and fourth is the independence. When these 4 basic attributes are present, then that entity is termed as a society. Now my question to you is, do you think India is a society based on these 4 basic attributes? देख के बताओ. Can we term India as a society based on these 4 basic attributes? Can you please repeat? Prachi, what am I supposed to repeat? The definition, I'll repeat. Society is referred as a network of social relationship. Okay, dictation is getting missed. नेटवर्क ऑफ, अच्छा एक चीज, मनीष एक मिनट मुझे चेक करके बताओ, क्या स्पीड स्लो हो रही है, क्या दिक्कत आ रही है? इज देयर अ प्रॉब्लम विद द बफरिंग और समथिंग लाइक दैट? मनीष जस्ट लेट मी नो ना, क्या दिक्कत आ रही है, बिकॉज यहां से तो इंटरनेट की स्पीड एकदम ठीक है. So it is a network of social relationship based on pattern of interaction between the individual members. There are 4 basic attributes, and thankfully all you've answered is correct, that definitely we can't term Indian society as a society. Reason being, we do not have a common culture. What we have is a composite culture. So can I say that Indian society based on these 4 attributes is an amalgamation or the collection of multiple societies? Write down. Based on these 4 basic attributes, based on these 4 basic attributes, based on 4 basic attributes, Acha, guys, the class coordinator is telling us, sir is telling us that technical issues सारी classes में हैं. आज buffering हो ही रही है, तो थोड़ा सा पढ़ लेते हैं, ठीक है, कल ठीक करा देंगे सब लोग. वही, क्योंकि यहाँ पे तो इंटरनेट एकदम परफेक्ट चल रहा है, तो आज सारी क्लासेस में बफरिंग हो रही है, द कोऑर्डिनेटर सर इज सेइंग. तो ठीक है ना, आज मैनेज कर लो. आई विल रिपीट, जहां पे भी तुम लोग को दिक्कत आएगा जस्ट लेट मी नो, आई विल रिपीट एवरीथिंग. ठीक है. अरे बाप रे, बहुत बफरिंग हो रही है. थोड़ा सा पढ़ ले, और एटलीस्ट ये छोटा छोटा चीजें करा लेते. कल से मैं सेलियंट फीचर नेक्स्ट क्लास से स्टार्ट कर दूंगी. आज ये इंपैक्ट ऑफ ब्रिटिश रूल तक पढ़ लेते. आई रिपीट, परफेक्ट आंसर आप लोगों ने दिया. कॉमन कल्चर नहीं है, तो व्हाट वी आर गोइंग टू राइट, बेस्ड ऑन दीज 4 बेसिक एट्रीब्यूट्स. लेट मी राइट एवरीथिंग ऑन द बोर्ड, तो फिर मिस नहीं होगा. बेस्ड ऑन four basic attributes, Indian society is a collection of multiple societies. As we possess composite culture. Instead of a common culture, what we have is a composite culture. We are a multicultural society. Is this clear? ठीक है ना. एक चीज रुकना, अब ठीक है. I've written the definition. Is this clear? ठीक है. Can we proceed now? See? Now, see, you need to understand that no society remains static for all time to come. Definitely the society will undergo a change because there are different forces of change which are emerging. Now just hold. We are not going to discuss the forces such as Jainism, Buddhism, Bhakti movement, Sufi movement, because that is what you've studied in your art and culture. But what we are concerned with is the impact of British rule on Indian society. Reason hai, 200 years ka rule tha, there has been a significant impact, and if I want to take forward the discussion from today onward, at least I should know what was the basic development which has happened in context of Indian society because of the British rule. So you need to understand in general that no society remains static. It undergoes a change with respect to its structures also, with respect to its cultures also. In fact, मैं कल की क्लास में ओपन सेशन में डिस्कस भी करूंगी. There has been a question that to what extent the traditional social values have underwent a change. So basically how India has maintained the continuity in its traditional social values and where it has underwent a change. So obviously social values are nothing but the part of culture. सो कोई भी सोसाइटी स्टैटिक नहीं रहती है. उसके स्ट्रक्चर्स और उसके कल्चर हैज अंडरवेंट अ चेंज एंड देयर हैज बीन डिफरेंट फोर्सेस विच आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द चेंज. चाहे वो सोशल रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट्स हो, चाहे वो बुद्धिज्म हो, जैनिज्म हो, भक्ति मूवमेंट हो, सूफी मूवमेंट हो, क्रिश्चियनिटी हो, इस्लाम हो, देयर हैव बीन डिफरेंट फोर्सेस विच हैज ब्रॉट अबाउट चेंजेस in the context of Indian society. But one of the most significant impact which has happened in context of Indian society is because of the emergence of British rule. Although you might have studied that in your modern history, but I just have to give you a diagrammatic representation so that I can carry forward my discussion on Indian society. Is that very clear? ठीक है? Now make this diagram. And this diagram is going to help you in future topics also. I'll discuss how. Just write down, I'll explain everything. Write this much, I'll explain everything. Impact of British rule on Indian societies. मनीष क्या करें? Too much buffering हो रही है. What am I supposed to do? Because this is an important topic. If I continue and if they don't understand that the topic, then how will we manage? Just tell me what am I supposed to do. At least this is visible on the board. ये तो लिखो. Impact of British rule on Indian society. I have made 3 columns here. One is tradition, in which I've written ritual status. I'll explain everything. Ritual status, hierarchy, strong religious orientation, collectivism, particularism. So under tradition, I have written ritual status, hierarchy, strong religious orientation, collectivism, and particularism. ठीक है? On the other side, under modern is just the opposite. Secular status, egalitarianism मतलब equality, rationality, individualism, universalism. Then forces of change. I'm just reading it out. Forces of change, new social change and new social order. I'm just dictating, as in I'm just reading it out for you. I'm not explaining anything. New social change में English language, secular education, printing technology, transport and communication, which has resulted into spread of ideas. दूसरी तरफ लिखा है industrialization, urbanization, new indicators of social status and emergence of educated elite class. इतना बना लो. And once you have made this, just let me know. I'll just ask Manish what to do. Done? Okay, let's start. ये पढ़ लेते हैं, फिर मैं नहीं पढ़ाऊंगी. जब तक मनीष मुझे जवाब दे रहा है तब तक जस्ट लेट्स स्टडी थोड़ा बहुत. ठीक है? सी रिचुअल स्टेटस से व्हाट इट मीन्स इज, आपको कुछ भी डेफिनेशन लिखने का जरूरत नहीं है. यू जस्ट नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. You can use these terms as it is. और ये कोई बहुत rocket science नहीं है. This is normal English. Ritual status basically means when your status in the society, I'm repeating very, very slowly, when your status in the society is determined by the factors which are rooted in your religious scriptures. That is known as ritual status. मतलब when your status in the society is based on ascriptive criteria. ये normal English है, इसे sociology नहीं समझना. Ascriptive मतलब by birth. You have not done anything to attain that status. You are just born. For example, in India, if you are born a male Brahmin, you will have the superior status. What is your contribution in becoming a male Brahmin? अब ये मत कहना पिछले जन्म के अच्छे कर्म. Don't give me that. ठीक है? But the thing is, what have you done to be born as a Brahmin, or what have you done to be born as a male in Indian society? Nothing, right? But you are enjoying a status in the society. So when your status that you are enjoying in the society is based on ascriptive criteria. Ascriptive मतलब by birth. Or another simple definition, when the status that you enjoy in the society is based on the factors that are rooted from religious scriptures. That is known as ritual status. ठीक है, एक एक वर्ड समझाती चलूंगी, समझते चलो. ठीक. So ritual status means the status that you have acquired in the society based on ascriptive criteria. ये एक लाइन लिखना चाहो तो कहीं पे लिख सकते हो. The status that you have acquired in the society based on ascriptive criteria, and ascriptive के आगे ब्रैकेट में लिख दो by birth. अब इससे स्लो मैं नहीं जा सकती, दिस इज वेरी मच अगेंस्ट माई नेचर, पर मैं बहुत स्लो जा रही हूं आज. सो रिचुअल स्टेटस, डू यू अंडरस्टैंड नाउ? ठीक है, तो जैसे कास्ट बेस्ड स्टेटस हो गया, जेंडर बेस्ड स्टेटस हो गया, सो दैट इज नथिंग बट ethnicity based status ho gaya, so that is nothing but ascriptive criteria. That is by birth. You've not done anything to achieve that. On the contrary, just the opposite, secular status is the status that you are enjoying in the society is something that you have achieved. The status which is based on social factors, social mein jaise your education, how much economic wealth you possess, or how much political power you are holding. So the status that you have acquired in the society based on your achievement, this is not something that you are born with. It is something that you achieved, right? So whether it is on the basis of your education, whether it is based on your economic wealth, or it is based on your political power. Team, can you please open the response portal? वो बंद हो गया. एक मिनट गाइस, रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल बंद हो गया, मैं एक मिनट स्टार्ट करा दूं, फिर बात करते हैं. तब तक ये देख लो. सो रिचुअल स्टेटस एंड सेक्युलर स्टेटस, डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस? द स्टेटस that you are enjoying based on ascriptive criteria is ritual status, and the status that you have acquired based on achieved criteria, that is secular status. So that is ritual versus secular status. Is this very clear? Take it. Next, traditional society is characterized by hierarchy. Hierarchy is nothing but arrangement in layers, one above the other. So that is hierarchical society. अब traditional Indian society तो hierarchical ही थी ना. अब hierarchy was either based on caste, hierarchy was either based on gender. तो ये तो था ही. The society was characterized into different layers. ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, वैश्य, शूद्र. या बफरिंग हो रही है. मनीष बताओ भाई, मैं क्या करूं? अब आधी क्लास को समझ नहीं आएगा तो मैं पढ़ाने का क्या फायदा होगा? मनीष, प्लीज टेल मी व्हाट एम आई सपोज टू डू. टीम से पूछ के बताओ, बिकॉज सम स्टूडेंट्स आर सेइंग कि वीडियो ठीक है, सम आर सेइंग कि इट इज बफरिंग, बट वी हैव टू केटर एवरी स्टूडेंट. तो प्लीज मुझे बताओ व्हाट एम आई सपोज टू डू. ओके दिव्यांश, ठीक है. ओ तेरी, ऐसे में कैसे पढ़ाऊं? पता है मुझे डिस्ट्रैक्शन हो रहा है हर थोड़ी देर में. स्टूडेंट्स आर राइटिंग बफरिंग, तो मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा है कि मेरा पढ़ाना बेकार हो रहा है. तो प्लीज टेल मी व्हाट एम आई सपोज टू डू. Guys, just 1 minute. Let me just confirm from the team. The team is saying it is running fine as of now. Guys, नहीं मानेंगे यार, 15 मिनट की क्लास है, पढ़ लेते हैं. चलो देखो, Hierarchy is basically simple. Hierarchy is basically arranging the society into different layers, one above the other. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, male, female. Did you get the point? So when the hierarchy is layering of the society or the arrangement of the society in different, हट तेरे की, ये फिर लिख रहे हैं यार मनीष की बफरिंग हो रही है रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल पे. What am I supposed to do? On the other hand, the modern society is characterized by equality, that is egalitarianism. ठीक है? Similarly, the traditional Indian society was characterized by the feature strong religious orientation. Religion in context of India is not just a matter of faith. It is a way of life. Right? In fact, Mahatma Gandhi, when the concept of secularism was being talked about at the time of independence, Mahatma Gandhi did say that it would be very difficult to implement secularism. It would be very difficult to keep religion separated from politics, because in context of Indian society, religion is not just about the faith. It is your way of life. How will you dress? What will you eat? Whom will you interact? Whom will you marry? Everything is determined by your religion. So there was a very strong religious orientation in context of a traditional Indian society. It was perceived that every aspect of your life, your economy, your polity, your society, your culture, everything would be determined by the religion. Is that clear? So there was a strong religious orientation in context of Indian society, the traditional Indian society, right? However, it was perceived that the modern day society, I am not saying Indian society, I am saying modern day society would be characterized by rationality. Rationality in simple words means logic. Rationality means it would be driven by scientific temper. मतलब गो करोना करने से करोना नहीं चला जाएगा, या काउ यूरिन पी लेने से कैंसर नहीं ठीक हो जाएगा. I hope you get my point. What I mean when I say rationality. Rationality means when some aspect or argument is subjected to be empirically verified. छोड़ो, simple words. जो चीज में लॉजिक हो, जो थोड़ा साइंटिफिक टेम्पर से ड्रिवन हो, कोई भी ऐसी बात जिसको आप वेरीफाई कर सकते हो. Is that clear? So that is rationality. So it is perceived that a modern society would be characterized by rationality. It would not be rooted in dogmas, in superstitions, it would be driven by rationality. See? Traditional Indian society is characterized by collectivism. Collectivism means that the collective interest would be given primacy over individual interest. In fact, ट्रेडिशनल इंडियन सोसाइटी में इंडिविजुअल इंटरेस्ट के लिए कोई स्पेस ही नहीं था. योर करियर चॉइसेस, योर चॉइसेस विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू स्पाउस, हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू बिहेव, what would be your value system, everything was determined by the collectivity, whether it was family, whether it was community, whether it was any society. Is that clear? Your individual preferences would not be given primacy. Whereas in a modern society, be it any society, it is the individual interest which would be given primacy over the collective interest. Charity begins at home. पहले खुद का भला करो फिर दूसरों का. So individualism believes that first I am going to serve my own vested personal interest and then I am going to think about the collective interest. So that is nothing but individualism. Is that clear? The most interesting feature is particularism. Particularism in simple words, भाई कोई definition तो पूछ नहीं रहा है, एक simple words में समझाती हूं. You show me the man, I show you the rule. Or simple, nepotism, favoritism, groupism, that is nothing but particularism. It depends whether that rule is going to be applied on you or not. Determine is based on the factor whether you are my friend or my relative or not. किसी भी सुपरस्टार के बेटे को विदाउट इवन पोजेसिंग द ड्रग्स कैन बी पुट बिहाइंड द बार्स, वेयरएज किसी की भी एयरपोर्ट पे खूब सारा ड्रग्स मिलने के बाद भी नो एक्शन वुड बी टेकन. आई एम नॉट क्रिटिसाइजिंग, आई एम गिविंग यू एन एग्जाम्पल फ्रॉम द करंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट. पर्टिकुलरिज्म है, इट्स पर्टिकुलरिज्म. यू शो मी द मैन, आई शो यू द रूल. ड्रग लॉज आप पे अप्लाई होंगे कि नहीं, इस बात पे डिपेंड करता है वेदर यू आर माई फ्रेंड और माई रिलेटिव और नॉट. Is that very clear? Whether you have, killed anyone in rash driving or something, whether you would be penalized for that or not depends on the factor that whether you are my friend or my relative or not. So you show me the man, I show you the rule. That is particularism. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? So what is meaning of particularism? एक लाइन में लिख लो. Circumstances dictate particularism. Circumstances dictate how ideas and practices are applied. Circumstances dictate how ideas and practices are applied. Or some people are more equal than others. Some people are more equal than others. Simple words, you show me the man, I show you the rule. Nepotism, favoritism, groupism, etc. On the contrary, what is universalism? Everybody is treated as subjected to same rules. Everyone is equal. So everybody is treated subjected to same rules. Everybody is treated subjected to same rules. That is, it is the belief that ideas and practices, it is the belief that ideas and practices can be applied everywhere. It is the belief that ideas and practices can be applied everywhere without any modification. Without any modification. Are the meanings clear of the words? Now just listen to the discussion. This is what the traditional Indian society looks like. Okay? Ritual status, ascriptive criteria, hierarchy, strong religious orientation, collectivism, particularism. It was expected that with the emergence of the British rule, there will be a new social change and a new social order in Indian society which would be established. How will social change be brought about? By there was emergence of English language. Because of the English language, we were getting exposed to the Western value system which talked about equality, fraternity, liberty, justice. So by means of English language, we were getting exposed to the foreign value system. Not only that, prior to the emergence of Britishers, the education system was esoteric. ये आपने modern Indian history में पढ़ा भी होगा. Esoteric मतलब limited to only certain sections of the society, and the content of the education was very religious. It was only after the emergence of the Britishers that the education system became exoteric. Exoteric matlab applicable to a large section, available to a large section of the society, and the content of education was also secular. It was no longer determined by the religion. So there was emergence of secular education. So obviously with the exposure to the Western value system, with the exposure to the secular education, there were new ideas which were emerging at one corner of the society. भाई ऐसा तो नहीं था कि सबको education मिल गई. भाई जो access कर पा रहे थे उनको मिल रही थी, open थी सबके लिए. But not everybody was getting access. But yeah, a significant chunk of the society was getting access to the education system, was getting exposed to the Western values. So the new ideas were generating, which were talking about equality, rationality, liberty, fraternity, all of that. However, because of printing technology, because of transport and communication, the ideas which were emerging at one corner were getting disseminated. So there was dissemination of ideas which were happening because of printing technology and transport and communication. So ideas were not limited to an individual or an individual area. It was getting spread to the larger area. So it was believed with the dissemination of new progressive ideas, social change is going to usher in context of Indian society. Similarly, it was expected that a new social order would be established in context of Indian society. Why? Because there is emergence of industrialization. Now with industrialization, what was happening, ये मैं caste system में फिर repeat करूंगी. पहले क्या होता था, कास्ट वॉज द बेसिस ऑफ ऑक्यूपेशनल डिविजन ऑफ लेबर. योर कास्ट वुड बी डिटरमाइनिंग व्हाट ऑक्यूपेशन यू आर गोइंग टू प्रैक्टिस. विथ इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन इट लेड टू द emergence of caste neutral job opportunities. Now you were being given jobs based on your skills, not on the basis of your caste. So with industrialization it led to the emergence of caste neutral job opportunities. One point. Second, with respect to urbanization also, जैसे जैसे urbanization हो रहा था, एक नई ideology emerge कर रही थी. ये भी हम डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे, बट बता देती हूं भी. There was a new ideology which was emerging, that is known as urbanism, which resulted into development of anonymity. It resulted into development of heterogeneity. I'll explain. अर्बनाइजेशन होने से अनोनिमिटी और हेट्रोजेनिटी आ रही थी. उससे क्या फर्क पड़ा भाई? पहले क्या होता था, कास्ट सिस्टम ड्रिवन करता था कि हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू लिव योर लाइफ, वेयर यू विल बी रिसाइडिंग, whom will you be interacting with. ठीक है ना? नाउ विद अर्बनाइजेशन देयर वाज एन आइडियोलॉजी व्हिच इमर्ज्ड, दैट इज नोन एज अर्बनिज्म, which is characterized by two important features, anonymity and heterogeneity. आप खुद देखो, anonymity, you are not concerned with the caste of the other person. For example, let's take example of metro. You've traveled by metro, ठीक है? अगर ट्रेडिशनल इंडियन सोसाइटी होती, सो अपर कास्ट इज सपोज टू मेंटेन अ डिस्टेंस विद द लोअर कास्ट. आपने पढ़ा होगा अपनी हिस्ट्री में कि देयर हैज टू बी अ डिस्टेंस विच इज सपोज टू बी मेंटेन. लोअर कास्ट पीपल का शैडो शुड ऑल्सो नॉट टच द अपर कास्ट पर्सन. इट इज कंसिडर्ड एज वेरी पोल्यूटिंग. हम कास्ट सिस्टम में पढ़ाएंगे. यही तो ट्रेडिशनल इरैशनल लॉजिक्स एग्जिस्ट करते थे इंडिया में. तो बेसिकली इट वाज बिलीव्ड दैट अपर कास्ट एंड लोअर कास्ट हैज टू मेंटेन अ डिस्टेंस. पॉसिबल है मेट्रो में? आप मेट्रो में ट्रैवल करते वक्त बोलते हो भाई साहब कास्ट क्या है आपकी, डिस्टेंस मेंटेन करना है. कैन यू डू दिस? No. So with urbanization, there was a development of an ideology known as urbanism, which is characterized by a feature called anonymity. You are not concerned with the caste of the other person. And as a result, there is heterogeneous society which is getting created. People of different caste, different community, different culture, different religion, different ethnicity, they are staying together. So that has resulted into, कहाँ गया? So because of industrialization and urbanization, there were new indicators of social status which were emerging. Now your status was not determined by the caste that you belong to. Now your status was determined by how much education you possessed, how much economic wealth you are possessing, where are you living. You know, all that factors were creating a new indicators of social status, which led to the emergence of educated elite class. पहले तो क्या था? Upper caste is the elite class. But now it was slowly and gradually emergence of educated elite class irrespective of their caste. So it was perceived. I am not saying that has happened in India. What I'm saying is it was perceived that with these new forces which has emerged in India because of the British rule, there will be a social change, there will be a new social order which will be created, and India would transform from a traditional society to a modern society. Do you witness these features in India today? Do we witness these modern features in India today? Just answer that did you understand, तभी मैं आगे proceed करूंगी. Is there anything which you have not understood so far? अरे यार एक सेकेंड यार, रिस्पॉन्स कहाँ चला गया भैया? आई एम सो सॉरी, प्लीज लगा दीजिए रिस्पॉन्स वापस और उसको ऊपर कर दीजिएगा, वो स्क्रॉल नहीं हो रहा है तो मेरे को नीचे के ना रिस्पॉन्स नहीं दिख रहे. है ना, ठीक है, up to some extent हुआ है, but largely these features are not still relevant. And see, this question cannot be answered today. I have to teach you family, I have to teach you caste system, I have to teach you how diversity or what is religion or how it is functioning secularism, and then I can answer that question better. But one thing you have understood, that completely these features of modern society is not reflected in context of India. How we can say that even today your status is determined by your caste. क्यों इंटरकास्ट मैरिजेस तो अभी भी टबू मानी जाती है, ऑनर किलिंग हो जाती है, तो अभी भी तुम्हारा स्टेटस सोसाइटी में कहीं ना कहीं इज डिटरमाइंड बाय योर कास्ट, ठीक है ना. सेकेंडली, इगैलिटेरियनिज्म, ऑब्वियसली वी आर अ स्ट्रैटिफाइड सोसाइटी, आज भी कास्ट, रिलीजन, जेंडर, एथनिसिटी स्ट्रैटिफिकेशन इज स्टिल एग्जिस्टिंग. रैशनैलिटी, मतलब जो मैंने आपको एग्जाम्पल दिया, गो करोना या काउ यूरिन कैन क्योर कैंसर, इट इज in itself is an exemplification of the fact that rationality is slightly missing in our context. ठीक है. Then individualism. No matter how much we try to pursue individualism, there is always a social pressure कि नहीं, family compulsions को focus करना है, societal compulsions को focus करना है. So more than individual interest, you have to give primacy to the societal interest. But even though individualism is still practiced, universalism, मतलब पूरा कंगना रनावत और करण जौहर की डिबेट फेल कर जाएगी अगर हम यूनिवर्सलिज्म बोल देंगे कि इंडिया में है. सो आई होप यू गॉट द पॉइंट. लिखना नहीं आंसर में कंगना रनावत एंड वो, बट या, नेपोटिज्म इज एग्जिस्टिंग इन आवर सोसाइटी. इज दिस क्लियर? ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट इट वाज परसीव्ड दैट ऑल्दो दीज फोर्सेस ऑफ चेंजेस डिड हैपन, इगैलिटेरियनिज्म मतलब इक्वालिटी, ठीक है ना. So to some extent the changes have happened and we will study. ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई caste based division of labor अब change हो गया है. Now your job is determined by your skills, not on the basis of caste. तो ये change तो आया है. तो ऐसा कहना तो गलत होगा कि completely ऐसा change नहीं हुआ है. But yes, complete modernity has not ushered in context of India. What has happened in context of India is known as mistaken modernity. Or I can say what has happened in context of India is this clear? So what has happened in context of India is mistaken modernity. You believe you have become modern, but actually that has not happened, and I'll give you example. So it was being put by certain scholars in a very defined words, who said that in context of India what we have experienced is westernization, not modernization. So now we come to the discussion, what is westernization and what is modernization. अब आप पूछो कि मैम ये कहीं सोशियोलॉजी तो नहीं है, तो देखो हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने खुद बोला था that India needs modernization and not westernization in one of his speeches 2 years back. Is that clear? ठीक है. So ये नहीं है सोशियोलॉजिकल टर्मिनोलॉजीज. ठीक, लिखो, राइट डाउन. वेस्टर्नाइजेशन वर्सेस मॉडर्नाइजेशन. गिव द हेडिंग. वेस्टर्नाइजेशन वर्सेस मॉडर्नाइजेशन. वेस्टर्नाइजेशन, it is blind emulation. Emulation means imitation, copy करना. Blind emulation of culture of West. Blind emulation of culture of West. और बार बार पूरा पूरा वेस्टर्नाइजेशन लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Write down definition. Westernization refers to blind imitation of culture of West. We could have used the term Europeanization or Americanization also, but we use the term Westernization because of the impact of Britishers. Is that clear? Then, what do you mean by modernization? It is progressive transformation. Progressive transformation of social, political, economic, attitudinal aspects of society. So Westernization refers to blind imitation of culture of West. However, modernization is a wider concept. It refers to progressive transformation of social, political, economic, and attitudinal aspects of society. Is this very clear? Scope. Westernization is restricted to speech, clothing, food habits, music preference. So the scope of Westernization is very limited. It is very limited to the peripheral aspect of our culture, that is speech, clothing, food habits, music preference, etc. Whereas modernization is a fundamental concept. Modernization is a fundamental concept which aims to bring change in values, behavior, infrastructure, etc. So it is more of a fundamental concept which aims to bring about changes in the attitude, values, behavior, infrastructure, etc. For example, modern education system, industrialization, urbanization. These are nothing but examples of modernization. So industrialization, urbanization, modern education system. So that is an example of modernization. That is the scope. Next, nature. Can I say Westernization is an elite concept? Not everyone can afford Westernization. It is limited to middle class and upper class. Everyone can't afford McDonald's, no. Everyone can't afford Starbucks. Everyone can't afford Levi's jeans or whatsoever brand you are wearing today. Okay, so whatever I'm trying to say is that Westernization in itself is a very elite concept. Not everybody can access Netflix. Not everybody can access, access to Western music or dance for that matter. So it's a very elite concept. So it is limited to middle class and upper class. Whereas modernization is a mass affair. It penetrates to every section of society. See, you must be wondering, why am I doing this? This is the habit. I always believe when you have to make a comparative analysis, you should always have the parameters based on which the comparison can be taken place. So लिखना जरूरी नहीं था, लेकिन मैं सिर्फ आपको बताना चाहती थी कि आंसर राइटिंग इस तरह से की जा सकती है कि जब भी कोई दो चीजों को आपको कंपेयर करना है, ऑलवेज गिव पैरामीटर्स. नहीं तो पता कैसे चलेगा किस बेसिस पे? इफ सपोज करो देयर आर 2 स्टूडेंट्स इन द क्लास, वी हैव गिरधर एंड वी हैव वन मोर स्टूडेंट, लेट्स से क्या नाम है स्टूडेंट का, कोई भी, हिमांशु लेट्स से, मैं किस पैरामीटर पे दोनों को कंपेयर कर रही हूं? बेस्ड ऑन देयर जेंडर, based on their religion, based on their caste, based on their education, based on their job prospects, yeah, job experiences. I should have the parameter, no, based on which I am holding the comparison. That is why I gave you those parameters. Okay? So with respect to definition, with respect to scope, with respect to nature, and with respect to desirability. See, westernization per se is not a negative concept. ये आपकी choice है. That's your personal choice. If I want to change my food habits, if I want to change my dressing style, if I want to change my language preference, absolutely no issues. That's a personal choice. Per se, it is not a negative concept. But in the name of modernization, restricting yourself to westernization is definitely bad. What I mean by this is, today we are obsessed with English language. सामने वाला बस इंग्लिश में बोल दे, we are too impressed. We don't care about the content of the conversation. We are more obsessed with the language. English as a language is no longer a medium of communication. It has become a status symbol. And irony is, you will never say आपको English नहीं आती, even if you don't know how to speak English. You will make deliberate efforts, all the possible efforts, even if it is grammatically incorrect, to speak English. But जब आपको हिंदी नहीं आ रही होगी, आप क्या बोलोगे? My Hindi is like literally weak, huh? And you take pride in that. I'm sorry. It's not relevant to the South Indian students. That is basically with respect to your mother tongue. So I am saying with respect to the North Indian students for whom the Hindi is your mother tongue. But if you don't know Hindi, you'd say it with a lot of pride, huh? Like my Hindi is like really bad and with all that accented English. But when your English is bad, you will try to hide the fact. So that is wrong. You've become westernized. Colonial hangover is there. You treat English to be a superior language. Why? It is just a medium of communication. Why are you so bothered about that? The focus should on be the content of communication rather than the medium of the communication. That is only relevant if you are able to make the other person understand what you are trying to say. We are using English as a medium in this classroom because we are accessing all the students across India. There are many who don't have Hindi as their mother tongue. So obviously there has to be a common language. So English serving the purpose of common medium of communication is absolutely fine. But when it is being perceived as a status of symbol, when people don't know proper English, they have been looked down upon, they've been mocked among the community. That's wrong. That's not modernization, that is westernization, obsession with the colonial culture. That is supposed to be changed. For example, when you wear your traditional clothes, it is being treated as like, I don't know, kaise bolenge, but suna hoga bahutone ne, ki this is very bhenji style because the person is wearing the traditional, arey bhai, that is the traditional clothing that we have. अब कितना irony है ना that you have created one particular day to wear those traditional clothes. Now you are more obsessed with the Western clothing system and your traditional clothes के लिए corporate culture में एक particular day आप identify कर लेते हो, आज हम अपने traditional कपड़े पहनेंगे. Otherwise, wearing traditional clothes on a very daily basis is considered very down market, very conservative, very orthodox. That is absolutely wrong. That is westernization. Accept it. Do not claim it. Do not equate it with modernization. Modernization comes when your value system changes. Modernization comes when your attitude becomes progressive. Modernization comes when your infrastructure is developed. When your behavior is driven by progressive thought, that is modernization. English में चार बातें बोल देने से या western कपड़े पहन लेने से या Starbucks जाकर Insta पे post कर देने से, that is not modernization. Youth of India is highly mistaken about the concept of modernization. Is that clear? Is it clear for everyone out there? Did you understand the difference? So per se modernization is not bad. Right? So, per se westernization is not bad. So desirability में एक line लिख लो. Westernization per se is not wrong. However, westernization per se is not wrong. However, restricting only to westernization in the name of modernization is wrong. However, restricting only to westernization in the name of modernization is Wrong. Yes, Prashant, absolutely. That is not the traditional culture. Yes. Next. There is one more misconstrued notion, let me put it like this, or a myth, that modernization means you have to give up on your traditions. No, modernization can coexist with traditions. Modernization only means to give up on those traditional practices which are regressive in nature. Did you get my point? So living in joint families, still you can be modernized. Respecting your parents, still you can be modernized. Touching their feet, still you can be modernized. Did you get the point? Celebrating the festivals, cultures, performing all those rituals, still you can be modernized. So modernization can coexist with tradition. You only have to give up on those traditions which are regressive in nature. Is that clear? Abolition of untouchability, sign of modernization. Okay? Abolition of triple talaq, sign of modernization. Right? Giving girls the right in the inheritance property or in the ancestral property, again, so giving girls the inheritance right in the ancestral property, again, a sign of modernity. Right? So modernity can coexist with tradition, only it is against those traditional practices which are regressive in nature. Is that clear? So write down. The process of modernization can coexist with traditional values. The process of modernization can coexist with traditional values. However, it goes against only those traditional values which are regressive in nature. It goes against only those traditional values which are regressive in nature. Write down a question. Write down a question. India needs modernization and not westernization. India needs modernization and not westernization. Comment. India needs modernization and not westernization. Comment. Is that clear for everyone out there? Okay. So with this, the base aspect is done. From the next lecture, I'll be starting with salient feature. The first feature would be joint family. And if we are able to finish joint family in time, I'll start with caste system. Is that clear? So on this note, I conclude today's lecture. I hope you've understood. Team, please अब वो scroll down कर दो response portal. वो यहाँ से scroll हो नहीं रहा है. Please कर दो. So on this note, we conclude today's lecture, and I hope whatever is being discussed, see, we have not discussed much, but at least whatever concepts have been mentioned in the class, whether it is multiculturalism, social empowerment, universalism, particularism, modernization, westernization, you've understood the terms. You've understood what is ascriptive nature. You have understood what is urbanism. You've understood what is achieved status. What is rationality? What is egalitarianism? You've at least understood the words, so that if in the future we are using these words, you don't find it very alienating. Is that clear? Okay? So on this note, I conclude, but I need to see the response portal before. Maybe you have some questions, but it is not getting scrolled down. Koi kar do bhai. Wow. Yeah, Japan is an example of modernization with tradition. Perfect. किसने बोला? पुष्पेंद्र. Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely. Mix of traditional and modernity, ये एक salient feature है. इसको हम तब discuss करेंगे अबू when we have discussed the topics here, because this is how the questions have been asked, that how India is a blend of tradition plus modernity, or अगर sociological perspective में बोले तो basically what has modernized is the Indian tradition. So modernization of Indian tradition is happening in context of India. But anyhow, we'll discuss that. Yes, absolutely correct. Perfect. So can I conclude the lecture? I think you guys are also tired. ठीक है, मेल आईडी अभी नहीं, पहले पढ़ लो, क्योंकि इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू आंसर एवरीथिंग ऑन मेल. जो भी डाउट हुआ करे यही पूछ लिया करो यार. आज तो ऑलरेडी डिले हो गया है. नेक्स्ट टाइम से आई विल गिव लास्ट 10-15 मिनट्स फॉर द डिस्कशन. सो क्या तुम लोग मेल आईडी पे लिखोगे? क्या मेरे आंसर का वेट करोगे, रिप्लाई का? जो भी क्वेश्चन हो, ये भी पूछना हो कि ऑप्शनल की तैयारी कैसे करनी है, क्या करना है, यहीं पे पूछ लेना. इज दैट वेरी क्लियर? तो क्विक कम्युनिकेशन हो जाएगा, लैग नहीं होगा, ठीक है. सो ऑन दिस नोट आई कंक्लूड द लेक्चर. आई होप यू अंडरस्टूड एवरीथिंग. ट्राई टू सॉल्व द क्वेश्चंस. आई हैव गिवन आई थिंक 3 questions in today's lecture. Try solving those questions. And this modernity and modernization and westernization is the assignment question, Manish. ठीक है. And yeah, fine. If it is regarding optional, हम next class में बात करते हैं. Last 10-15 minutes में we'll discuss that. ठीक है. So good night, people. Have a nice day. Enjoy your dinner. And I hope you like the lecture. ठीक है. और फिर कोई दिक्कत आएगी वो स्लोली एंड ग्रेजुअली वील गेट यूज टू इट. आज तो थोड़ा बफरिंग का प्रॉब्लम हो गया. फ्रॉम नेक्स्ट क्लास से थोड़ा और आदत पड़ जाएगी आपको मेरे पढ़ाने की स्टाइल की, और मुझे भी आदत पड़ जाएगी, एंड आई विल गेट टू नो व्हाट इज द इंटेलेक्चुअल कॉम्पोजिशन. सो अकॉर्डिंगली वील कीप चेंजिंग द लेक्चर्स. ठीक है. बाय पीपल. गुड नाइट. टेक केयर.